Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. So in this lesson we are going to learn about Ansible. If you go to the Ansible documentation, you will learn that Ansible is an IT automation tool and it is used to configure system, it is used for automation, and especially in DevOps it is used a lot. So now let's understand some of the basic features of Ansible. So Ansible is an IT automation tool. You can literally automate anything. You just need to understand what are the modules you need to use, the plugins, and in fact you can create your own custom plugins or modules if you want to achieve something which is already not available in Ansible. Now other than that, you can also use Ansible to configure system, configure operating systems, application, databases, network devices, firewalls. There are a lot many things you can do. If I start to name all of them, it is going to be a very long video. Ansible is used a lot to deploy software. You can deploy any kind of packages, you can manage softwares, you can configure the softwares, you can set the default settings and so many things. And with the help of Ansible, you can also orchestrate advanced IT tasks. Like you can create a flow which has let's say 10 tasks to be executed in a sequence or based on some sort of condition. So you can do those kind of things using Ansible as well. Now there are two types of Ansible editions available. First one is open source and the other one is enterprise. The open source one is fully free to use. It is open source. Code is also available. If you want to customize the code or you want to enhance it, you can do that as well. You are free to do that. And open source is basically managed by communities, community driven. There is a wide adoption of Ansible open source platform, which you can already see. Even if you go to trends.google.com, you can see the adoption trend is increasing. Okay, Ansible provides you flexibility to use it being an open source. Features like no vendor lock-in, agentless. So this is again, agentless is one of the key features of Ansible. So you have to install Ansible on a single server, which is going to be called a managed node. And then it can literally interact to all the servers which is available in your enterprise without the need of installing any software on those target machines. Typically you see when there is some automation tool is available, it typically works on the agent mode. So you have to install some sort of agents on the target machines as well, which you want to manage, but that is not the case in Ansible. Other than this, there is another feature which is called idempotence. Okay, this is one of the best feature of Ansible. So what it means is if you run the same playbook again and again, it is not going to basically break the system. For example, let's say I'm going to create a user which is, let's say, called Ansible user on all the 10,000 machines. Okay, and I created a playbook to run that to run the command to basically create users. I run it once, so the first time it is going to create users on all the 10,000 servers, and if I run it again, basically it is going to see that the user is already available. So it is not going to create the user again. Okay, so it is not going to mess up your environment. So that is one of the best feature of Ansible. And other than that, there is security and transparency. Since it is an open source, code is available. It means you have access to seeing everything. The code is quite transparent. Okay, if you want to scan it with your security software, you can do those as well. And obviously, as I told you, it is being used a lot in integrating with DevOps pipelines. Now, Enterprise Edition has lot many support, especially it is managed by Red Hat. Red Hat provides enterprise support as well. So that's one of the cool things, especially if you are one of those enterprise who doesn't run open source until there is someone who is going to support that open source. And what Ansible Enterprise Edition does is there is going to be a lot of content which is going to be certified by them. Okay, because Ansible being an open source, there's a lot of people always contributing towards creating module plugins, and lot many playbooks are also available on GitHub. So how do you know which one is good, which one is bad? So Red Hat does that kind of work. It certifies some content, and certified content is you can see there on the Red Hat website. You can download it, and you are ensured that yeah, these contents are good to use. Okay. Other than this, Enterprise Edition also provides you features such as role-based access control. So you have like a graphical user interface to access Ansible, and then you can control which user is going to be able to have which kind of role. So that is something which is called role based access control. So some of them is going to have, let's say, view control or run only control. Some of them going to have development or developer level of access control or admin level of access control. So that is something available as well, and it has good integration with Red Hat products. You can also see a lot of automation analytics. In fact, the GUI itself provides a lot of feature. Security and compliance is improved in Enterprise Edition. It has Automation Hub, which is basically a UI edition of Ansible, creating or managing Ansible playbooks. And with the help of this, you can also integrate with the external systems. Especially in Ansible Enterprise Edition, you are going to have lots of REST APIs exposed, so you can use those REST API to interact with Ansible using some other third-party application tools. You can integrate it literally with any other thing. Okay. There is something called Red Hat Insights, where you see insights about how the product is working, the resource consumption, and so on. Again, we are going to see some of the feature of Enterprise. Probably I will show you when we are going to use it. For now, you just need to understand that these are the features which is available in open source and Enterprise. Okay, so let's move on and understand Ansible architecture. The Ansible component is going to run on a server, and that server is typically either called control node or management node. Okay, and then you create a playbook, and you also create an inventory. Okay, so playbook contains a task to be run, and you in playbook you also tell where to run these tasks. Okay, and then the system information, for example, server information, how to connect to that, those information you provide typically in an inventory file. Okay, so Ansible manage node kind of uses playbooks and inventory, plugs them, and then runs the command on the target servers. Okay, again, there are different mechanism it is going to use or protocol it is going to use to connect to the system. For example, to connect to Linux system or Unix based system, it is going to use SSH, and to interact with Windows machines, it's going to use WinRM. Now let's talk about inventory file. So here you can see creating an inventory file is very easy. It's just a text based file, and under the square bracket you can define, or you can just give it a logical name. For example, in this case we are calling it DB servers, and these are the 3 servers which is under DB servers. And then I am giving it another name, which is web server. Under web server, we are just giving the host names. You saw here we gave the IP addresses, here we gave the host name, so you can mix and match. And again, there is another tag which is called Windows servers. Okay, so here we have given Windows 01, Windows 02. These are the servers. Now what you can additionally do is you can also provide the credentials or username or additional parameters, basically, which is going to control that how the connection is going to be established on these servers. So for example, here you can see we are specifying that on this server it should be connecting with the root user, and the password is also root. Now for server 192.168.0.2, the username is Oracle and the password is Ora123. Okay, so this is how you can specify credentials as well. Now we are going to again go through little detail when we are creating our own inventory files. Now let's understand what is playbook. Okay, so now here you can see this is a simple playbook which I have just taken for sample. Now let's understand this playbook. So playbook is basically going to be ending with YML extension. Okay, it is a file where you basically provide you write it in YML, and it always starts with 3 hyphens. Okay, so by this it means it is a valid YML file. Okay, so now the first section which we have is name. Under name, basically we are giving a name to this play. Okay, so whatever the first hyphen name which you see, under this whatever comes is basically going to be called a play. Okay, so under play you can have multiple tasks. Now let's see what is the second line. So basically the second line which you see here is host. So as you saw in the inventory file, we had mentioned web underscore servers. So basically it is going to run on only the servers which was specified under web underscore servers group. Third thing which you see here is gather facts. So whenever Ansible connects to the target nodes, it gathers some system information about those target nodes. Now by default it is already enabled. Again, it is one of the tasks which is going to get executed. If you want to disable it, you can disable it, but by default it is already enabled. If you want to be explicit, you can write gather facts yes, otherwise anyway it's going to run. Now other than this, you can see we have declared variables, which is web server port 80. So this is how you declare a variable, and this variable can be used in tasks. Okay, so that's about gather facts. Let's move to variable section. Variable section I already told you. So you can basically, you don't want to type port 80 in under all of your tasks, so you just create a variable and then you can just use this variable name in the task. For example, here you can see web server port. We have used web server port variable here. Okay, and in future if you want to change the port from 80 to any other port, you just need to change the value here and rerun the playbook. Now let's talk about tasks section. So this is the section under which you define multiple tasks or a single task, again depending on the need. So here you can see we have created a simple task which is having a name. You can give any name. So the name is ensuring Apache is installed. So again you should be making sure that you give a name which is descriptive enough and which defines the tasks. Okay, the playbook is written in a way which is more like a documentation itself. So somebody who's going to read this YAML playbook, they should be able to understand, and this should also act as a documentation for any developer. Now under this, let's understand under task we have name section, then we have become section which says become yes. So basically we want elevation to root user, that's why we are setting become to yes, and under that we are using apt module. Okay, so Ansible has many modules. You can use different modules for different purposes. For example, if you want to create user, you are going to use some module of Ansible. If you want to, let's say, create or basically if you want to install or manage packages, you are going to use package modules. So there are many modules available, and all of these information is available in the documentation. So I'll show you again all of those information. This is just a quick introduction about Ansible playbook. Okay, so here you can see we have defined the task, and we have also defined a condition that basically if Ansible OS family is equal to Debian, then only this task should run. And once the task is completed, it should basically notify to restart Apache. Now what is restart Apache? Restart Apache is one of the handler. Okay, so let's say once the HTTPD services are installed or web server installed, we also want to restart, or basically we want to start Apache services. Okay, so that's why we are saying, okay, once this task is finished, notify to this handler, and then once this task is finished, the task which is mentioned under handlers are going to get executed. So that is how, this is a little complex playbook, but I wanted to just give you an idea of how the playbooks are going to be looking like. Now, in order to install Ansible, the process is quite simple. You can just use package manager. In this case, I'm using yum. So we can just say sudo yum install Ansible, and after that you can write Ansible space -- version, which is going to tell you about the version information of Ansible which is installed on your system. Now here you can see I have already installed Ansible. So that's why if I run sudo yum install Ansible, it says everything is already installed, nothing more to do. And if I do Ansible -- version, you can see the Ansible version which we are running is Ansible 2.9.27. Okay, now let's create our first Ansible playbook. Now before we start creating our first Ansible playbook, let's understand my demo environment, so you have full understanding of what is our lab environment is looking like, so you can probably also replicate the same. Now this is my workstation, the IP address of which is 192.168.43.192. okay, now on my workstation I'm running Windows operating system, and other than this I have 3 servers. The first server where I have installed Ansible and which is going to be basically called Ansible management node in our case. The IP address for those are 192.168.43.19. okay, and this is the server where we are basically going to create our playbooks and inventories. And then I have 2 more servers. One server is 192.168.43.20, and this is again CentOS server. Then there is another server which is 192.168.43.21. this is again one of the CentOS server. Okay, and then what we are going to do is we are also going to interact with Windows server. Now I do not have any additional Windows server, so what I'm going to do is with the help of Ansible, I'm going to basically connect back to this my workstation. Okay, so that's why if you see, this is the same IP address which I have specified here. Now again, as I told you, to connect to different type of operating systems, it uses different mechanism. To connect to CentOS, which is basically Unix based system, we are going to be using SSH. To connect to Windows, we are going to be using WinRM. So that's all. Let's do some hands on. Hi everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. So now we are going to write our first Ansible book. So before we start, let me show you what is my lab setup. So here you can see this is the IP address of my laptop. So here you can see the IP address, and then I'm having a server which is having the IP address of 192.168.1.19. This is going to be our Ansible management node, and on this Ansible management node we are going to create playbooks, and also we are going to create inventory, which is going to be used by Ansible to fire commands or basically run any task on the target servers. Again, we are going to use different protocols to connect to these servers. For example, to connect to CentOS, we are going to use SSH. To connect to Windows, we are going to use WinRM. Now, one thing, if you see here, for CentOS, I have two different servers, but for Windows, I do not have any different servers. So what I'm doing is from Ansible, I'm going to connect back to basically the laptop which I'm using, which is having Windows operating system installed. Okay, so this is going to be the setup. Now let's get started and start writing our first playbook. So I'm going to keep first playbook very simple. Okay, we will basically try to ping all of the servers like CentOS servers and Windows operating system servers. So first of all, I need to log into all the servers. I have opened command prompt because I'm using Windows operating system, and then we are going to use SSH to log into our different servers. So the management node or the control node which we have is having the IP address of 192.168.1.19. Okay, and I'm using SSH to connect. Now I need to supply the password. Here you can see we have connected to the management node. Now let's do one thing, clear the screen, and also let's rename it. I'm just going to rename it so it is easier for you to know which host we are connected to. Okay, so this is management node. And then we are going to open couple of more prompts. So here we are going to connect to other nodes, other CentOS nodes. So the IP address is 192.168.1.20, and again you need to supply the password which you have set up. So here you go, we have connected to our CentOS 1 server. So let me rename it as well. Let's simply call it CentOS 1. And then we are going to connect to one more server which is 192.168.1.21. Okay, enter the password. Now let's clear all the screen and let's rename this as well. Okay, so anytime if you want to know which screen basically I am on, you can just see the tab and you'll be able to know which server I'm connected to. Okay, so most of the things we are going to basically perform here at management node, but I still just wanted to show you that we are having multiple servers where we are going to connect to with the help of Ansible. Now one thing we need to know is, if you see, we have logged into all the servers using root user. Now in a production environment, it is not really a good idea to connect to servers using root user. So what you can do is you can create a user which you can use to manage Ansible related tasks. For example, here we can do we can run user add command and create a user which is called Ansible. Okay, and you can do the same on all the nodes. Now here you see I'm getting the error that user already exists because I have already created the user. It means I can switch to that user now. Okay, to switch to the user we can do su space hyphen Ansible. So now if you see, we are logged in as Ansible user. Okay, now it is just a user. Okay, we have not really done anything extra here. This is just a new user. If you do ID, you can see that right now we are logged in as Ansible user. And again, to connect to the target machines also, what we can do is we can have a similar user created. So on the target machines also, for example, on CentOS 1 and CentOS 2, if you see, I already have a user created which is called Ansible. Now you don't need to create a user with the same name. You can have any name depending on the project structure or your organization policy or whatever. Okay, or if you're working for a client, you can follow the naming standard which your client suggests. So now we have switched to Ansible user, and here if I do pwd, you can see right now I'm in /home/Ansible. And if I do ll, you can see right now we have a directory called backup, and then we have some YAML file created. We don't need to bother about all this now. Now let's go ahead and start creating our playbook. Now in order to create a playbook, as I told you, we need to have a host file, okay, which is also called an inventory file. Okay, so let's create our inventory file first and let's call it hosts. Again, I'm using vi editor. You can use any editor of your choice. So here what we need to do is we are going to write a logical name in the square brackets. So let's call it CentOS servers, and here we are going to give IP addresses of our CentOS servers. So in this case it is going to be 192.168.1.20, and the other IP address is which is 21. Okay, So right now let's just put these IP addresses. If we want to put Windows IP address, we can do that as well. And for example, let's call it Windows server, and the IP address which we have is this one, and just save it and exit. Now let's just see the content of this host file. Here you can see we have our changes have been saved. So now what we can do is we can go ahead and create our first playbook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a playbook which is called ping CentOS servers.yml. Again, this YAML file can be named anything, just end it with YAML extension. It is an YAML file, so it is going to begin with 3 hyphens, then hit enter, give hyphen space name. Okay, and here you can give a name to this play. So first thing, as I shown you in the previous video, there is some structure which we have to follow for YAML playbook. Okay, so we are just following that structure. So first we are going to create a play, and this play is going to have a logical name. So let's call it ping CentOS servers. And then we are going to give hosts, so on which target system it should run. Okay, so in this case we have created a group in our hosts file which is called CentOS servers. So we are going to give that name. So this task is basically going to run only on the CentOS servers. Okay, and then let's create tasks, and under the task we can just create a task which is called, again we can have multiple tasks, but in our case we are just going to keep it simple and going to create or going to add basically only one task. And the name I'm going to give to that task is ping CentOS servers now. Okay, or we can call it pinging CentOS servers now, whatever you want to give, you can give that. And then we just the task which we are going to run is called ping. Okay, so that's all. I think we are pretty much ready to run our first YAML file. Now remember one thing, as I told you in the previous video, there is a task which is called gather facts which runs by default. So if you want to disable that, you can just do gather facts no. Okay, so it is going to save some of your time, and it is not going to collect all the system related information from the target machine. Now in order to run this task, we are going to use Ansible Playbook, and we need to use -i to provide the name of the inventory file which is basically called hosts file in our case. And then we are going to give the YAML file name and hit enter. Now it is going to run it. Now here you can see when it is connecting for the first time, it is basically asking whether you know this server, you want to cache the fingerprint, and also just write yes and hit enter. It is going to prompt you only for the first time when you are connecting to the new machine, and after that it is not going to be prompting you for that. Now here you can see it is saying okay. Let's wait for this task to finish completely. So it has basically executed on this target server which is ending with the IP address of .21. Okay, and now probably it is going to run on the other server which is ending with .20. So let's wait for that. Okay, in fact what happened is here you can see it tried to basically connect to 192.168.1.20, but because the key was not cached, it couldn't run, and then it moved to the next prompt and we provided yes. So that's why it executed properly on this server. Okay, so what we can do is, in order to cache the key, we can try to connect to that server by writing SSH Ansible @192.168.1.20, and then here you can see it is asking for caching. So let's say yes, and after that I'm just going to basically cancel it, and then we will run the playbook again. Now the beauty of Ansible Playbook is, as I told you, it is idempotent. So basically you can run the same playbook again and again, and it is not going to cause any error. Now let's clear the screen because it's just getting little too messy. So right now you can see what we have done is we have created a file which is called ping CentOS server. So let's see the content of the file again. Okay, this is what we have given. Now let's do Ansible -playbook and -i, provide the name of the inventory file, then provide the name of the playbook. Now in this case you can see first it is saying play ping CentOS server. So this is the name of the this is the name we had given. So here you can see it is saying that this play is running, and under this play these are the tasks which it is running. So it is running the task of ping CentOS servers now, and on which servers it has run this task on these two servers. So both of these have been successful. That's why we are seeing this. in the play recap we are seeing that OK equal to 1 and there is nothing failed. Okay, if some task fails on any of the target server, we are going to see that task has failed. Now let's do one thing. I'm just going to open this playbook again, and let's change this gather facts to yes. So you will see there is one extra task which is going to run, which is called gathering facts. And let's do, or I think I have this command saved, so we are going to rerun this command again. Okay, now here you can see there is one additional task which has executed, which is called gather facts. What it does is it gathers all the information about the system. For example, what is the operating system of the target where these tasks are going to run, what is the hardware information, CPU core, memory information, so things like that. I'm going to show you these information in detail, but right now you just need to know that if you set gather facts to yes, there is one additional task which is going to run on all the target servers. Now in production, if you are not really using these information, it is better that you disable the gathering facts because unnecessarily it is going to run on all the target host and going to spend extra time in running this task and gathering all the information, which is not really relevant to the playbook. Now what we will do is we have in our let's see our inventory file. So in our inventory file we had basically a Windows server as well. Now if we try to connect to Windows server, we are going to get error because we won't be able to connect to the Windows server without providing some additional information. So what I will do is I have saved this additional information here, so I'm just going to copy this information and then we are going to paste it in the hosts file. So let me remove this line and paste this information. Okay, so right now here what you can see is that we have IP address, and then we are telling connect to this Windows server using Ansible username of administrator. Okay, and the password is admin. Again, you need to make sure you don't really provide the password as a text. So we are going to learn Ansible Vault in our upcoming tutorial, and there you will know how we can provide this password securely. Okay, and then we are specifying that Ansible connection. So the mechanism it should use to connect to the target system is WinRM. Okay, so previously if we don't specify anything for Unix related operating system, it is always going to use SSH, and basically if you don't specify anything, it is going to use SSH mechanism. But in this case we know it is Windows, and if we try SSH mechanism, it is going to fail. So that's the reason we are specifying that connect using WinRM. Now the other process is the other thing which we are specifying is the port on which it should connect to. So WinRM by default uses 5985 port, but in your case if something has changed or you are running WinRM services on different port, you can use that port. And the other thing which I am doing is Ansible WinRM server certificate validation I am changing it to ignore, because otherwise we are going to get error like certificate didn't match or things like that. So I'm just disabling it. And then Ansible WinRM transport, I'm setting it to NTLM. Now we can save this information, and let's clear the screen once more, and let's create a file which is called, let's create another playbook which is called ping windows servers.yaml. Okay, and again this is a YAML playbook, so we are just going to write ---- 3 times and then -name, give the name of the play, give a name to this play. So we are going to call it pinging Windows servers. Okay, and then what we can do is hosts is going to be Windows servers. Remember, this is the name which we had given in the inventory file. So this time this task we are going to run only on the Windows server, so we are not specifying CentOS servers. Okay, and then we can set gather facts to no, and then we can specify tasks. Under task we need to set -name, and then we just let's call it ping Windows server right now. Okay, and again now here we are not going to use just ping. So if you are connecting to Windows, the modules which we use are slightly different. So in this case, module which we are going to use is called winping. So we are going to run it using Ansible-playbook command, and we are going to provide inventory file name which is hosts, and then ping Windows servers YAML. Okay, Now here you can see it is running a play and it has executed this play successfully on the Windows server, and it connected successfully. Everything was okay. That's why you can see we are now able to connect to our CentOS servers and Windows server. Now let's do one thing. Can we let's say what if we need to ping all the servers? Okay, how we are going to handle that thing? So what we can do is and again this is one of the important concept. You can create playbooks for different tasks, and then you can have a single playbook which is including those different playbooks. Okay, so here you can see we have I'm sorry if you are getting notification for WhatsApp. I'm just I think someone is just sending me WhatsApp notification, so there is slight disturbance. Anyways, so what I have done is I have created one more file which is called ping all servers, and I'm going to open this file for you. And now here you can see what we have done is we are importing both our playbooks. Okay, so we are saying -import playbook ping Windows servers YAML, and then we are importing another playbook which is called ping CentOS servers.yaml. Now we are going to save it, and this time we are going to run it. So we are just going to say ping, I'm sorry, it's not going to be ping, is Ansible playbook -i, provide the name of the inventory file host, and this time we are going to run ping all servers, and let's see how this task runs. So you can see first of all it is running the plays which is available in ping Windows servers file, and it is pinging Windows server, and then it has moved on to running ping CentOS server YAML file. And now you can see it has executed all the tasks, and here you can see in the play recap you can see that on 192 basically on CentOS server there are 2 tasks which has been executed, even though we had written only one task of pinging the server. Now the reason for running these 2 tasks is because there is one default task which is gathering facts task which is running as well. Okay, but on the Windows server we had disabled that task, so that's why you can see there is only one task which has ran successfully, and that task is basically pinging the server. So just a quick recap, what we have done is we created an inventory file which is called hosts, and here you can see this is the information which we have provided. So we have created a group which is called CentOS server, and then we created another group which is called Windows servers, and under CentOS server we provided list of CentOS servers IPs, and again under Windows server we provided list of Windows server IP, and also we provided some additional detail which helps Ansible know the mechanism it needs to use to connect to the target server. Okay, and then we created 2 YAML playbooks. One is ping Windows server, then we created another one which is ping CentOS server. We ran both of them independently, and then what we did is we created one more third playbook which is called ping all servers, and inside this playbook we included both the, again let me open the content. Inside this what we did is we imported both the playbooks which is called ping Windows server and ping CentOS server. So eventually when we ran ping all servers.yaml, it executed both of these playbooks, and it executed the tasks which were available in those playbooks. Okay, so I hope this video has helped you. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. So welcome back to this new lesson. In this lesson we are going to learn about gathering facts in Ansible. So we are going to basically understand what is the information which is going to be displayed in gathering facts, and we are going to also learn how to use those options effectively with the help of conditions, and then we are going to do some hands-on as well. Okay, so these are the things which we are going to cover in this lesson. Now let's open up our demo setup. Here you can see I'm logged into management node, and then I have couple of servers as well, like this is CentOS 1, and then there is another server which is CentOS 2. So anytime if I am switching between the screen, you can just see on the tab, it will help you to know which screen I am on. Okay, so right now what we are going to do is let's run this setup command. So setup command basically is going to give us information about any target node. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to say Ansible, and then we are going to gather the information about some specific server. Okay, so that server IP is 192.168.1.20. okay, let's say we want to gather information about this server. Now by the way, this 20 IP address is of this CentOS 1 server. We can also verify that by using hostname -i command. Here you can see this is the IP address of this server. Okay, So what we are trying to do is from our management node we are going to run or collect the information of the target server, which is this server. Okay, so Ansible, and then we need to provide the IP address. We also need to provide the hosts file which has the information of this node. Okay, so the host file which I have is called hosts, and then we can do -m and we can specify the command which we want to run. So basically when we run Ansible Playbook, behind the scene it calls for gather info it calls setup module. Okay, so we are going to run setup module here, and let me hit enter. So now you can see we have big chunk of information available on our screen. Now let's try to go on the top, and we will try to understand the information which it has captured. Okay, so let me scroll up. You can see, I mean, this has lots and lots of information, almost like 300 or 400 lines of information. So here you can see this is the command, or this is, you know, what I ran on the screen, and this is what we got. So we got information about the IP address for which we are collecting the information, and then these are the information which we have collected, which is essentially a JSON. Okay, now this JSON can also be used to create some kind of CMDB inventory, or probably, you know, creating a website which has all of these information where you can go in and you can see how many servers are available in your environment. You can see the specific information like operating system, IP addresses, information about BIOS, and so many other things. Okay, so if you are creative, there is no limit how you can use this information. So here you can see we have information about IP address of the server, target server. We also have information about the IPv6 address. We also have information about Ansible architecture information. Okay, these are the information which is related to Ansible module itself. Then we have information about date time. We can also use this information again in our playbooks. I'm going to show you that as well. And if you scroll down, we have lots of other information. Here you can see we have information about the device, and also we have information about different partitions like SDA1, SDA2. Also you can see the information like low level information of these information. And if you scroll down, you can also see information about operating system. Okay, so here you can see we have Ansible distribution CentOS. So what we are going to do is we will try to use this information in our playbook, and we will try to print this information. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to print this information. Okay, now if you just keep on scrolling down, you will see there is a lot of information. For example, you can see information about mount points as well somewhere down. Let me just scroll down. Here you can see we have information about mount points. So this is basically essentially telling us information about, you know, what is the disk type we have, how much total space is available, how much is used. So with the help of this information, you can also you can use this information basically in your playbook to, let's say, get a report which is going to show you information about utilization percentage of each of the mount points. Okay, so this is how you can just be little creative. You can use this information and create a report like memory utilization report or probably disk utilization report about your target servers. Okay, so let's clear the screen, and then we are going to use this information in the playbook. Or generally what I do is, you know, we ran this command, right? So what I do is, if you want to keep this information, you can just redirect it in any of the file. For example, let's say I want to keep this output in /tmp/sysinfo. Okay, so basically whatever the information which we saw on the screen is going to go into this file. Let's try this. So I hit enter, and then this has been completed. Okay, so the output has been basically redirected to this file. So I'm just going to open up this file, and let's do cat, and let's put more. Okay, so here you can see this is the information which we were seeing on the screen. Now we have the same information available in the file. So now let's say basically, you know, this is a dictionary. If I want to pull any information, for example, let's say if I want information about Ansible all IPv4 addresses, then all I have to do is I don't really need to mention Ansible _. I can just mention all _IPv4 addresses. And I think somewhere we also had information about operating system. So let me just scroll down. Okay, let's say if you want information about host name, you can just write host name in the playbook. I'm going to show you how to use it. Okay, so these are basically the variables which are available to you from the gather facts. Okay, Ansible node name, Ansible OS family. Okay, so let's try to use this OS family. I'm just exiting from here and clear the screen again, So let's first see what we have on the screen. Okay, we don't have much here already available, so we are going to create a new file which is going to be called let's call it gather facts example.yml. okay, and then in this file we are going to write name of the playbook, which is name of the play, which is going to be, let's say, called gather facts about servers. Okay, and then we want to, now remember one thing, if you are gathering facts, okay, if you are playing with basically the information available through gather facts, then you can't really disable gather facts. Okay, because if you disable gather facts, those information is not going to be available. Anyway, so I want to run it on, let's say I want to run it on CentOS servers only for the time being. And then we are going to say tasks, under task we are just going to write our first task, and let me call it show Ansible OS version or OS family. Okay, I think it was called OS family. Then what we are going to do is let's use a task which is debug, and under debug I'm going to print a message, or we can print a variable which is called Ansible. Yeah, let's just print a message for the time being. Okay, so we want to print value of a variable, so we need to use curly braces. Okay, you need to use double curly braces, and then you need to write OS, or let's just write Ansible OS family, and then we are going to save it. Let's try to run it using Ansible Playbook command. We need to provide information of our inventory file, which is host file. If you're not sure what is the content of this host file, you can watch previous video. In that video I have detailed everything about this inventory file. We want to run gather facts example. Hopefully it runs fine. Okay, yeah, it has executed perfectly fine, and we have got information about Ansible OS family, which is Red Hat. Now here you can see this task basically ran on two of the CentOS server, which is CentOS 1 and CentOS 2, and both of those are basically a Red Hat server, right? That's why we got this information. Now what we are going to do is let's open that file again. We are going to edit this file, and I want to add one more play. I'm just going to copy it here, and then we are going to go to new line. I'm going to paste it here. Okay, so now what we have is we have two facts available in our we have two plays available in our playbook. So let's call it gather facts about let's call it Windows servers, and then we have one, we are going to change the name and gonna call it gather facts about CentOS servers. Okay, now here in the host we have CentOS servers. For this one I'm just going to change it to Windows servers. Okay, so this play is going to targeted to run only on CentOS servers. This one is targeted to run on Windows servers. Okay, so let's save and exit. Now I just want to open basically let me do hosts. Okay, so this is the information about CentOS servers. This is the information about Windows server. Now one thing I want to do is I want to change this IP address. This IP address is not correct anymore because I am logged into a different network. Okay, so I'm going to edit this file, and the correct IP address for Windows server is 7, not 6. So now let's run this playbook again. So now you can see it executed on Red Hat server, and now it is going to run on Windows server. Okay, so here you can see when we ran this gather facts on Windows server, so under Ansible OS family, the information we got about operating system is Windows. Okay, so we know we have two Red Hat operating system, and then we have one Windows operating system. Now what I can do is let's go to gather facts example. Let's edit this file, and then what we are going to do is now I'm not going to run it only on Windows server. Okay, I'm just going to remove this, and then what we are going to do is we are here in the host we are going to put all. Okay, and let's see what happens. Okay, so let me remove it. Let's get rid of this line as well. Okay, fine. Let's go ahead and change hosts to all. Okay, and let's run it now. So it is going to run fine on CentOS servers, but for Windows we are going to get error. So I just want to show that error to you. Okay, no, fine. I mean, it ran fine on because we haven't really done anything else in this file. Okay, let me just go ahead and do one thing. Basically, we didn't get any error, and the reason why we didn't get any error is because Ansible OS family is available for both operating system. For example, whether it is Windows, Unix, or any other operating system, this variable is always going to be available. But we have one more variable which is called, let me add one more task. Okay, and we are going to call show mount points. Okay, now you know that for Unix based system we have mount points, but for Windows based systems we don't have a mount point. Okay, so ideally it should be giving error, so that's what we are going to try now. And it is called Ansible mount points. Okay, debug, fine, everything looks okay. Let's save it, let's run it. I should have cleared the screen before running it anyway. Okay, so now you can see what happened when it executed on Windows server. I mean, our first task, which is to show Ansible OS family, it executed fine on all the 3 servers, but what happened to the other task? Okay, I think we made some mistake while let me clear the screen. Let's go back. Okay guys, I'm not going to edit it. Okay, I want it to be like this, so you understand how we troubleshoot, because we make mistakes and we are going to fix it and then going to learn. Okay, that's how we do it, and that's how you're going to do it in the real world. So basically the variable name was called Ansible _mounts. I'm just going to save it. Okay, now, and let's run it now. So our first task we know is going to run fine on all the 3 servers, so that's fine. And now you can see status about the second task. Okay, so what happened is we executed show mount points, and what it did is it tried to execute show mount points on this node 192.168.1.7, which is a Windows server. Okay, so now on Windows servers, the gather facts information which we get, we don't have Ansible mounts available there. Okay, because of course it's a Windows server and we don't have mount points. We are probably going to have drive information. Okay, so when it executed these Ansible mounts on this operating system, which is Windows, we got the error saying the error was Ansible mounts is undefined. Okay, so this variable which we are trying to print is not defined, it is not available, and that's why we are getting error of variable name is undefined. Now on the other server, which is CentOS 1, and the IP address is 192.168.1.20, we got the information about mount points. So here you can see we have a mount point which is /boot, then we have other mount point which is /. These are the 2 mount points available here, and then again on server 21 also we have mount points. We have information about how much, what is the block size, what is the block total, what is the block used. Now we know it is going to fail on a Windows server, so what we can do is we can put a condition here. I'm going to put a condition which, and in order to write conditions we use when. So we are going to say when, and what I'm going to say is if Ansible mounts, or not Ansible mounts, we are going to say if Ansible OS family is equal to Red Hat. So what we are saying is if Ansible OS family is equal to Red Hat, then only run this task. Okay, if it is Windows or anything other than Red Hat, it is going to skip it. Okay, so let's save it and run it again. Hopefully the syntax is correct. Fine, our first task executed perfectly. Okay, and now let me just scroll up. You can see in the show mount points we have not got any error. Okay, there is no error, and the reason for no error is basically we made a if condition, and what we said is if the target server's OS family is not Red Hat, then just don't run this command. Okay, so here you can see skipping. What it did is it gathered the information from this Windows operating system, and it then checked OS family, and from the OS family it knew it is not a Red Hat server, it is a Windows server, so it skipped that task. Okay, so now here also in the play recap you can see that on this Windows server there is only 2 tasks which has been executed and 1 task which has been skipped. Okay, now just a quick recap. What are these two tasks we are talking about? Okay, so the first task is gather facts, which is going to get executed by default. Okay, so that's task number 1. And the second task which we are talking about is showing Ansible OS family. So I hope the lesson was helpful and it has helped you. Do not forget to write in the comment section if you have any query or if you just want to say thanks because this lesson helped you. Okay, see you again in the next video. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. So in this lesson we are going to learn about loops and we are going to learn how to use loops in Ansible. Probably in many of the programming languages you have already heard about loops and you already know the concept of using loop. We are going to use loops when you want to iterate over something. Okay, that can be a list, dictionary, or basically any iteratable item. Okay, so in Ansible we generally iterate over lists and I'm going to show you how to do that. So first of all, let's create a sample playbook. And let's start with something very easy or easy to understand. So let's call it loops demo.yml. And now we are just going to give a name to our play. So let's call it loops demo play. And this one, let's run it only on 192.168.1.20. Okay, so we are going to run it only on one server. Okay, we are targeting only one server, but you can put anything. Okay, if you want to target it on multiple servers, you can do it, but this is just a demo, so let's target for one server. And then what we can do is I would also disable gather facts. Okay, because we don't really, in this lesson we are not really going to use system information, so there is no point of running gather facts. And then let's go ahead and start adding our task. So first task, I'm going to run it, let's call it loop over all the fruits, or we can call it loop over all the softwares, okay, whatever. And then let's use debug. For now we are just going to basically show all the items which is available in a list. Okay, so now before I put anything in the message, I would like to tell you what we do is, so this is a task, okay, and we want to we want this task to loop over something. Okay, so the syntax for that is loop, and then we need to provide list of items here. So I'm just going to say let's say we want to install wget, we want to install any other software like Apache 2, any other software like telnet. Okay, and probably the list can go on and on. There's no point of putting 20 items, but this is what you will do generally. You will have list of items, for example, which you want to install, and then you will go ahead and install those list of items. But in this case we are just going to display, just going to loop over all these items and just going to display the name of this. That's why I'm just using debug module. I'm not using package module. I don't really want to install it. I just want to demonstrate the concept to you. So now what we do is once we put loop, we can refer to these items using item. Okay, so this is how you loop over all the items. Now if you want to print something, you can do that as well. This is software. Okay, and let's save it and run it. Loops demo. We also need to provide inventory file. Okay, so here you see what has happened is it has looped over each of these items. So this is a software, and first software which it displayed is wget, second one is Apache 2, third one is telnet. Now let's open it up again. Now rather than putting these items here in the loop, what you can also do is, if you have a variable, for example, let's declare a variable and let's give a name to this variable like fruits, and under this variable we are going to put list of fruits. So let's call it apple. Let's put another one orange, let's put one more mango. Okay, now we want to loop over all these items which is available in this variable. So for that what we can do is we can get rid of this, and then we can say loop over this variable which is fruits. Let's save it and let's run it. So here you can see we didn't change this message, but here you can see the each of the fruit names has been iterated over. So what loop has essentially done is it has looped over each of the items. Now let's go back and see what else we can do. So now in loops we have something which is called loops control. So we are going to use loop control as well. Let's call it loop control. And under loop control we have some options. Index variable, so let's call it index var, and then we can specify what we want to call this index variable. Okay, so basically index variable is going to help us know the index number which it is iterating. Okay, so let's say if you want to, like in a programming language, when you are iterating you also know the index number, so it is quite same concept. Okay, so let's call it index, and then we are going to use value of index as well. So we are going to say item is available at index position. Okay, and let's run this. So here you can see the message which we got is that apple is available at 0th position, orange is available at 1st position, mango is available at 2nd position. Okay, now let's go back here. Now here you can see the label which we are using to iterate over each of these items is called item, but it's not really quite intuitive name, and so you may want to change it. And in order to do that, what we can do is there is a variable which is called loop variable. Okay, and we can call it fruits. So now what we can do is we can't really call it fruits because we are already using this variable name fruit, so let's call it fruit. And now rather than using item we can use fruit here. Okay, let's run it again, and now you can see, okay, this is looking much better. Now one more thing which we can do is let me show you the output again. Okay, so if you see what is happening is for each of the item what we have is we also have this something which is called label. Okay, so if you want to change this label also to something else, you can do that as well. Okay, and that also you do it using label. Okay, under loop control. So under label, let's say under label what I want is let's say we want to use, I think it's not really a good example of showing label, but anyway, let's just put something. Okay, run it, and now you can see item name is equal to something. Okay, so because we hard coded it, so we are just seeing something, but if you want to change it to something else, probably what we can do is, let's say I don't want to use something, I want to show index position, then I can do that here. Okay, and in that case probably we also don't need this message. Okay, so I'm just going to remove it. So we know it's fruit name, and in the label it is going to show us the value of the index. Okay, so let's run it, and here you can see item 0th is apple, item 1 is orange, item 2 is mango. Okay, so that's all about loops. This is all you need to know about loops. Now if you have any question, please feel free to write in the comment box. I'll be more than happy to answer all of your questions. And if this video helped you, do not forget to say thanks in the comment box, and you can also connect to me on LinkedIn or other social media platforms. So thank you so much for watching. See you again in the next lesson. So in last video we talked about loops, using loops in Ansible. Now in this video we are going to talk about what is the difference between loop and with items. If you go through the community or if you go through Stack Overflow answers, many times you will see that people are using with items when providing the solution. Now if you see a playbook which is written using with items, so the syntax goes something like this. Okay, if you see loop syntax, It is quite similar, right? It is 100% similar, but you should not use with items. With items is actually now deprecated from version 2.5 and above, so it is recommended to use loop. However, if you use with items, it is going to work because of backward compatibility, but you should avoid using with items. Okay, the other reason is that now loop is basically an upgraded version of with items. A loop also provides functionality related to loop control, which we learned in previous lesson as well. So there are many features which we can control using loop control. So that's it. I mean, with items is an older version. We should not use it. We should use loop whenever we want to loop through items in Ansible. Thank you so much for watching. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. So in this lesson we are going to learn about Ansible switches. So when we are executing Ansible Playbook, there are certain switches which we can also pass at the time of execution, and again each of these switches have different purpose. So we are going to learn that in detail in this lesson. So first of all, I'm going to create a playbook and let's name it switchesdemo.yml. And here we are going to create a task which is called create a user, and for that one we are going to use the module which is called user module. And under user module we are going to specify the name of the user. Let's call it Joe, and also we can change the state to present. Okay, so this is going to end up creating a user, and the target machine on which we want to run it is a localhost. Okay, so it is basically going to run on the management node. Now I'm going to save it. One more thing, just open up your inventory file. So in this case, the inventory file which I have is called hosts. Under that, make sure you have localhost available there. Okay, otherwise it is not going to find localhost and it is going to give you the error. So that's it. Now what we are going to do is let's run it using Ansible-playbook. In fact, I'm just going to cancel it, and before that let's do ll /home, and here you can see right now we only have Ansible user, and this is the home directory of Ansible user. So once we create another user, we are going to see a home directory of that user as well. Okay, now let's run it using Ansible-playbook, and then we need to specify the inventory file path, which is hosts in this case, and then our YAML file. Okay, now in previous lessons we were running it using only until these commands. Now here we are going to pass the switch. So first one which we are going to use is called verbosity. So we can pass space -v. So -v is actually default verbosity. So whatever logs you see, let's say if you want to show more detailed log, you can increase the verbosity level to level 2, 3 or 4. Okay, so in that case, if you want to increase the level to 2, you just need to enter -v NV. Basically enter V 2 times to increase the verbosity level to 2. If you want to get more detail, just change it to 3 and 4 and so on. Okay, so in this case, let's run it by entering verbosity level of 2. And here you can see while executing it, we also got some additional details. Okay, now for some reason our task has failed. So let's see what is the reason. Cannot lock user. Okay, so basically it tried to create the user, and by default this is running using Ansible user, and it doesn't have really permission to create a new user. Okay, because in order to create a new user, it had to lock this etc/passwd, and we got the error. It means we need to also give permission to elevate. Okay, so we are just going to add become to yes. Okay, and then save it. Let's clear the screen once. Let's run it again. Now you can see when we run it, you can see we have also got some additional details. Now what if I change this verbosity to 3 and run it again? Now you can see we have in fact got now so much additional details. So basically we will be increasing the verbosity level whenever we want to do some sort of troubleshooting. Let me clear the screen and change it to in fact 4. And now you are going to see even more detailed execution logs. Okay, so whenever you want to troubleshoot, do some sort of troubleshooting, and your, let's say, playbook is failing, or maybe playbook is executing successfully, but you are not really seeing the outcome which you were expecting after executing that playbook. In that case, you can change the verbosity level and see the logs. So these are the execution logs. So now let's clear the screen and let's do ll/home, so we can see there is a a home folder created for Joe as well, which means our user has been created successfully. Now let's do one thing. Let's go back to the playbook which we created, and we are going to add one more task. Okay. And let's save it. Now if I just run it as it is, okay, I'm just going to remove this verbosity switches. I'm going to run it, and if I execute it, you can see all of the 3 tasks have executed successfully. Okay, but now what if I wanted to execute only certain tasks out of these 3 tasks which are available? Okay, and I also want to execute it interactively. So in that case, what I can do is I can pass -- step switch. Now if I execute it, it is basically going to ask for each of the tasks that whether I want to execute it or not. So here you can see it is asking whether I want to execute or perform this task, which is task name is create a user, whether I want to perform it or no. Okay, if I just select N, hit enter, it just skipped the task. Okay, it didn't perform the task of creating the user. It just moved to the next task, and again it is asking, do I want to perform this task? I'm just going to say no. I move to third task. Now here I want to say yes, and third task is going to get executed. Okay, so let's say if you have a playbook where you have almost 10 tasks and you want to kind of run only a few tasks interactively, then you can do that using -- step switch. Now the other switch which we have is called check switch. Okay, so what this is going to do is it is not going to perform the task, but it is only going to check and going to tell you that what is the change is going to happen. So for example, if I run it, let's see the output. Okay, so you can basically see right now actually we haven't turned on verbosity, so let me just increase the verbosity as well. Okay, so now in this case we didn't really have anything new to be done, so that's why we don't really see much difference. So let me do one thing. Let me clear the screen and let me change it to Joe 1. Okay, so basically now we are trying to create a new user, and I think I'm going to get rid of these additional tasks and I'm going to save it. Okay, now if we run it, now just remember we added Joe 1, so I just want to show you home directory as well. So we do not have home directory for Joe 1. Okay, so which means Joe 1 doesn't exist as of now. Now I'm going to run this again, and now you can see, okay, so basically it has not executed the task. It is just checking it and letting us know that if I run it, basically there is one change going to happen in the system, in the target system, where this task is going to get executed. And since we also turned the verbosity on, we can see that basically this changed is set to true, which means this task is going to take effect. Okay, but if I let me clear the screen, if I do ll/home, you can see user Joe 1 has not been created yet. Okay, so it is just telling you what are the changes going to happen if you run this task, but it is not really running the task. So it is good to use in production, especially if you are you have created a new playbook and you are intending to run it on, let's say, very larger environment of, let's say, thousands of servers. So you may want to check this playbook before actually running it. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. So in this lesson we are going to learn about setting up Ansible on Visual Studio Code. In almost last 6-7 videos we learned on how to create Ansible playbook using just VI editor on CentOS. Now we are going to use some sort of IDE which is going to help us in speeding up our development journey of creating Ansible playbooks. Now I prefer Visual Code. If you want to use any other IDE, you are free to use that as well. But if you want to follow along, please go ahead and install Visual Studio Code. So you can go to code.visualstudio.com/download, and again, depending on the operating system which you are using, go ahead and download that specific software. So in my case, I'm on Windows, so I have downloaded this software and installed it. Installation instruction is quite easy, so I'm not going to show it on the screen, but once you install it and then you just go to start menu, open up Visual Studio Code, and this is the screen which you are going to see. Now a couple of important things which we need to know here is that we will need some sort of extension in order to help us in speeding up our writing playbooks journey. Okay, so go to extensions, click here on extension and then search for SSH, then use remote SSH. Click on remote SSH. You are going to see option of installing here. Right now you see I'm getting option of uninstall because I have already installed it. Okay, in your case you are going to see option of installing it, so go ahead and install it. Once you install it and enable it, then you are going to see this remote explorer icon here, okay, which you can see here right now. So what we are going to do is, using remote explorer, we are going to remotely connect to our Ansible control node server. So here you can see probably I can in fact delete it, but it's quite easy. So you can just once you click here, you are going to see on SSH, just click here on new remote connection, and then you just need to provide the username and IP address of the server which you want to connect to. Okay, so for example, let's say I want to connect to 192.168.1.20. so this is what I'm going to give, and let's say I want to connect with using username Ansible, so we are going to give that detail. Okay, so for example, when I wanted to connect to control node which is on 192.168.1.19, this is what I gave, and hit enter, and then it is going to ask select SSH configuration file to update. So we can select this one, which is C drive users VIG, the first one. Okay, again depending on your operating system you might see different options, so just select the file where you want to store SSH configuration. Okay, so in this case you can see now we are getting the message that host has been successfully added, and you can click on open config file, and here you can see all the servers which has been configured to connect to remotely. Now what I see here is I see the same entry 2 times because I just added one. Right now one entry was already there. Okay, so I just removed one, and once you do that, once you do that entry, after that you are going to see this, and then here you can see it is showing Ansible. I'm just going to click on this arrow in order to connect to the remote server. Now you can see in order to connect it is asking for the password, so I'm going to provide the password. Once you provide the password, you can see, okay, we can reload the window. It is giving some just follow the on-screen instruction. If it is giving some error, you can just refresh it. In my case, it is giving error because I had already opened it. So I had set up all this quite a long ago, but I didn't really want to jump onto this one because it is better if you learn creating Ansible playbooks on a simple notepad file, a notebook file, or using BI editor, and understand the concept before jumping into anything else. So let me just clear everything. So here you can see the home directory which we are connected to is /home/Ansible because we provided Ansible user. But one more thing which you can do is you can see here we have option of terminal. Now from Visual Studio Code also you have access to that terminal. So if you don't see this terminal option here, you can go to terminal and click on new terminal. So now here on terminal you can run whatever command which you were running on basically on the remote system. So here if I do pwd, you can see right now my present working directory is /home/Ansible. Now one more extension which we are going to install is go to extension again and then search for Ansible. Okay, this is what we will need. Click on Ansible and you can see Ansible from Red Hat. Now this is the extension which we must install if we are working with Ansible playbooks. So just go ahead, install it and enable it. Once you do that, all you need to do is you can just go back to Remote Explorer, connect to the server which you were connected, and then I just opened up another window. Actually I shouldn't have done that, but once you do that, whenever you are saving any file with .yml extension, it is going to basically automatically detect that it's an Ansible file, and then it is going to start giving you suggestions when you're writing Ansible playbook. Okay, so here you can see we already have whatever all Ansible playbooks we had created on the server. All of those here you can see it is showing little blue or whatever color it is, that icon. So if I click here on create users, you can see this is how we are going to see our Ansible playbook now. Okay, so again this is just a simple playbook. Now let's say if you are adding one more task, it is going to give you some sort of suggestions. Okay, so for example, if I put name, install a package, if I write PAC, you can see it is giving you basically options of choosing the modules which are already available in Ansible. So for example, here I can just write package, and here you can see it is suggesting ansible.builtin.package, so which I can select, and then I can again we can let's say if we want to install Git, we can tell that we want to install Git, and we can also you can see, as and when I'm typing, for example, I just started typing state and it is already giving you option of typing state, so you can just press tab and then auto completion is going to complete it for you. And here you can see when I type P, I already know what are the options which are available. So options which are available is either present or privilege. So I'm just going to select present because we want to install this software. Okay, so that is how we can create, or we can basically create all the Ansible playbooks efficiently. And then if you want to run this one, you can just go ahead, go back to the terminal here, and then all you need to do is do Ansible playbook and then -i hosts, and then just give the name of this file. For example, this file is called createusers.yml. create-users.yml. Okay, if I run it, whatever you were seeing there on the remote server, the same option or same everything is going to be same. Okay, so it is nothing different than what we were doing previously. The only thing which we are doing right now is we are using Visual Studio Code to connect to our remote server, which is Ansible control node, and then we are executing everything still on the control node. Now the help which we are getting here is that we have now a couple of extension, which is Ansible, which is helping us auto filling all of these options. And also if you click on, for example, here you can see this is the module name which is available, ansible.builtin package. If I hover over here, you can see we are getting documentation of this as well. So again, there are additional advantages as well which we are going to discuss later on, but for now I just want to get you started from using Ansible, using basically Visual Code and Ansible. So thank you so much for watching. See you again in the next video. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. In this lesson, we are going to learn about Ansible variables. Now, there are many types of variables which are available in Ansible, and again, depending on what you want to achieve, you can make use of any of these variables. So in this lesson, we are going to learn about some of these variables type, but it is not limited to only these. There are many more variable types, but these are the ones which are more frequently used or more regularly used. So defining a variable is quite easy. All you have to do is just give the name of the variable, and then you can just provide the value of the variable. Let's go ahead and start creating a simple variable, a simple playbook with variables. Now I have actually already created one, but I think we will see that later on. Let's create a new file, and in this new file, let's call it vars example. Let's go ahead and give it a name. So first of all, we are going to create what is called playbook variable. So first we are going to create a playbook, and under the playbook we are going to create a play. So let's call it variable example, and hosts, let's put 192.68.1.19. Now in the gather facts, let's keep it to no, because we don't really want to waste time collecting the information which we are not going to use. And under the task, now we can provide name of a task. So let's call it show variables value. Okay, so in this task we are just going to use debug module, which is going to show value of a variable. Now let's say we are going to use a variable which is called http port. Now right now this variable is not available, but let's see what happens if I try to run this. Here you can see we have, okay, so there is error because this host name is not defined in our inventory file, which is host. So let's put this, and now let's rerun it. Now here you can see we have got some error, and here you can see the error HTTP port is undefined. Okay, so we are using a variable which we have not defined yet. So in order to define it in the play, we can use vars, and under vars we can use the variable name and value. So let's say we are going to use HTTP port, and value for this is 80. And again, you can define multiple variables. So for example, you can say user, and you can tell user is going to be admin, and probably let's say if you want to define something else like bar, you can do that as well. We have defined 3 variables, but we are going to display value of only one variable, and let's run it. So here you can see it has successfully executed, and in the message we can see value of 80. Okay, rather here we can type port is, and then we can rerun it. Let me clear the screen once. Now you can see we have Have I saved it? I think I haven't saved it. Let me save and rerun it. So here you can see message is port is 80. Okay, now if I want to use other variable like user, and then you can also show path. Username is this, path is this. Okay, save it, and let me just scroll it towards right. Okay, now we are running it again, and here you can see now we can see port is 80, username is admin, path is this path. Now what we can do is we can also define a variable at task level. So for example, let's say we have a task here, and under this task we also want to define variable which is called, let's say, admin user name. Now I'm just going to get rid of these. We will just show one play level variable, and then we will show one task level variable. Let's clear the screen, run it again. And here you can see port is 80. So this variable we had defined here. And the other variable which is at task level is available here. This is the value of admin username variable. Now remember one thing, each variable has some precedence. So for example, here on the play level, we are saying HTTP port value is 80. But if I define the same variable on task level, for example, HTTP port, and change it to, let's say, 90, save it and run it, then here you can see the value which we are getting is 90. The reason why we are getting value of 90 is because this is a task level variable, and task level variable is having higher precedence than variable which is defined at play level, which is HTTP port of 80. So again, let's say you have defined a variable which is having a default value, but in one of your tasks you want to just use a different value. In that case, you can use task level variable and update its value. So this is like play level and task level variable. Now we are going to talk about inventory level variable. So in the VS example, let's get rid of these variables, and let's go to our inventory file, which is called hosts file. If you are following up previous lessons, you will be knowing these. Now let's say we have a server, which is obviously we have under CentOS servers we have 4 servers, and let's say for each of these servers we have, let's say, Tomcat path, and we have Tomcat installed maybe at different location for each of these servers. And if we are trying to manage Tomcat services, probably we want to know the path of the Tomcat. Okay, so in that case, what we can do is we can define inventory level variables. So for example, let's say we know that on these two servers, which is 20 and 21, Tomcat path is under /tmp. So we can define that here. And we know on 19 server, Tomcat path is under /opt. So now what we can do is these variables we have defined here in our inventory file. So we can go to our playbook, and here we can use that variable. Now here, rather than HTTP port, let's use Tomcat path, and we can still continue to use admin username because we have defined admin username here. Now if I save it, let's clear the screen, run it. Now here you can see we didn't change the message, so it should be Tomcat path. But anyways, you can see that it is showing us value of /opt. So this is how we define inventory level variable. The other thing which we have is group variable. Now, if you see in this inventory example, if you see for these two servers, I had given similar path. So rather than giving this value 2 times, can I define a variable which is based on group? Yes, we can do that. So what we can do is we can create a new group. Let's say we call it CentOS server 1, and then create another group for this one, and let's call it CentOS server 2. And now we can copy this group name, come to the, now again, if you want to define variable here, you can do it here as well. But typically you will see people using in the end of the file, in the end of the inventory file, they are defining all the variables. But you can do that here as well. So we can say CentOS servers :vars, and here we can define variable name. Now we can remove it from here. And again for CentOS servers 2 also, we can create group variable, which is :vars, and here also we can define the same. Save it, go to your variable example, and let's run it again. You can see we are getting Tomcat path is /opt because value of this Tomcat path is coming from group variable, which is in inventory file. So this server 192.168.119 belongs to this group, which is CentOS server 2. You can see this IP address here. So whatever variable we define here is going to be accessed in our playbook. Now if I change it to /opt/ let's say temp dir, I can just go ahead and rerun my playbook. You can see this value has changed. So you can see here, without someone actually going and modifying the values or playing or editing the Ansible playbook, they can still change the value of the variables. So this playbook acts differently. Okay. So again, you may come across different scenarios when you would like to use inventory variable or group variable. So you can do that as well. Now the another type of variable which we have is called environment variable. Many a times you will have some application which requires some sort of environment variable, and if you want to manage those services, you need to know the value of that variable before you want to do something. So for example, this is again sent to a server. So in sent to a server, in order to set environment variable, what we do is we write export, then we write name of the variable. So for example, let's call it java underscore path, and we set its value to / let's say tmp. Hit enter. Now this variable has been set. If you want to see the value of this variable, you can do echo $java underscore path. Hit enter. You see the value of java path variable name. Okay, this is on the server level. Now what if I want to use the same variable name in my playbook? So I can do that. For that one, I have to use this one. I have to use lookup. So here, let's just copy lookup and let's remove this, and we can write name of the environment variable which we want to use, which is java underscore path. And here we can write some message, java is installed at. Now let's go ahead and run the playbook. Here you can see java installed at whatever value of java path. It has picked this value from the target node, which is this node, and from there whatever value was set for java path, it is showing that value. So we just set up java path to /tmp, so you can see that value here. So this is an example of environment variable. Now we have something called extra variables. So while let's say we have defined everything, we have let's say let's define a variable called http port 80, and let's say we have a program which let's assume we have a program which installs Apache, Tomcat, or maybe any other web server. Okay. Now while installing this, we want to at the runtime we want to basically provide the value of the port on which these services should be listening to. So in that case, for example, if I run this now, http port, let's also remove these task level variables just to keep things simple. Now if I run it now, you can see the value of http port is 80. Let's in fact remove this message. Okay, value of http port is 80. Let me clear the screen. Now what we will do is, while running this playbook, we will write ---- extra vars, and then here we will change the value, or basically we are going to provide the value of http port, and we are going to change it to, let's say, 100 or maybe 8080. Hit enter, and now you can see what has happened. So whatever variable which you had defined here at play level has got overridden by the variable which you have defined at the time of execution. So this is basically overriding any variable which have been defined at task level or play level at the time of execution. So that's all in this lesson. I hope whatever we have learned in this video you are going to make use of when you are working in production, or you are going to work in your job, and hope the video has been helpful. If you need any help, do comment, or you can also subscribe to my channel, share the video if you like, share with the people who want to learn Ansible as well. If you have any recommendation, do let me know in the comment box as well. Thank you so much for watching. See you again in the next lesson. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. So in this lesson we are going to learn about Ansible register. So register basically gives us flexibility of storing any task's result in a variable, and then we can play around with that variable. We can check whether the task has been successful or failed, and there is some other additional metadata is available as well in that variable. So we are going to see how to use register. So what I have done is I have already created an Ansible playbook. I have put the code here. I'm just going to copy it to our YAML file here. So the YAML file is called ansible-register.yaml, and we are targeting this node. So we are going to install Apache HTTP server on this node. So here you can see basically we have one task which is going to install Apache HTTP server. So let's go ahead and run it. This is going to finish fast because I have already installed Apache HTTP server. So basically it has detected that Apache HTTP server is already available, and it is saying okay because that's the state right now it is in. Now we are going to copy one more task, which is changing the configuration and configuration file and changing whatever default port is to 80. This is not the correct path which I have put here. Okay, so the correct path is /etc, and I have changed that to /tmp. And here you can see we have set ignore error to yes. So what happens if I change ignore errors to no? Okay, so let me change it to no, and then let's run it. So you can see anyways, first task executed successfully, then we executed second task has failed, which was expected. And here in the play recap you can see one task successful, one task is failed. Now we are going to copy our third task. Okay, so you can understand what has happened when we change the ignore errors to no. Now we are going to run it again, and now you can see first task executed, second task did not execute successfully, so that's why third task did not even started. So Ansible playbook has failed. In a scenario where we don't want any task should result in a complete playbook failure, we can change ignore errors to yes. So if we do that and run it again, let me clear the screen, let's run it again, and now we should be able to see that first task, we can see here that first task executed successfully, second task failed, but it just ignored the failure results, and then it executed the third task. And in the play recap we can see that 3 tasks has been executed, one is ignored basically, so that ignored status also it is showing in okay. Now what if we don't want to change the ignore errors to yes, and we want to probably see if the, let's say, if the return status is successful, based on that we want to take some action, or if return status has failed, based on that we want to take some action. So in that case what we do is we create a register, and you need to define name of this variable. Okay, so register variable we are defining it as install Apache for this task, which is called install Apache HTTP server. For second task we are calling it change Apache port. Okay, so whatever the result is, that is going to be stored in this variable, and we can access it using this variable. And again for third task we are saying start Apache. So this is how you basically register the return of any task. Now we are going to create one more task, which is going to be called show return status, and then we are going to use debug, and then in the message let's just understand, or let's just see the structure of this. So what we will do is we will just copy paste this variable name here. So whatever value is there in this variable, we should be able to see all of that value. So I'm just running this playbook again, and it seems we have got some error. I still have some spacing issues here. Okay, this time it is executing fine. So now you can see what has happened is our first task executed successfully, second task failed, third task also executed successfully, and then fourth task, which is showing return status. Here we can see under install Apache, these are the things which we have. Okay, so we have Ansible facts, we have changed whether something was changed or not in install Apache task, so it is set to false, because if you see Ansible Apache server was already installed, so it didn't really make any changes, so that's why value of change is set to false. Now the important thing which we have here is RC, which is return code. So from this return code you can know whether the task has been successfully executed or failed. So we can see now that our first task has been successfully executed, that's why we see return code of 0. Now let's do one thing. We are also going to print value of change Apache port, which is our second task, and we know this task has been failing. So let's see what is the return code we get in this task. Now here you can see we have two messages. one is this one, and this is the another one, second one. So here we can see that our return code is 257, which is a non-zero number. A non-zero number always means task has failed. And also in the message we can see what is the failure type. So it says destination/tmp, whatever path which we have given, it does not exist. Now you can see that with the help of register variable we are able to know the task which has succeeded or failed, and with the help of this what we can do is we can now trigger email alerts or something like that. So let's say we have, this task is of basically sending email alerts. I'm not going to send actual email alert in this lesson. I'm going to show you how to send email alerts later on. But for now, just assume this is a task which is sending email alerts. And as part of this email alerts, what we are doing is basically we are asking whether all of these tasks has been successful or not. And we want to basically just send an email report saying that whether all of these 3 tasks completed successfully or not. So we are saying install Apache status, and let me expand this side. So whether install Apache status is successful or not. So we know that install apache.rc is going to give us return code. So if we know, it is going to give us return code of 0, then what we can do is we can apply a if else condition. So we can say that show success if install apache.rc is equal to 0, else show failed. Same message we can write for other scenarios as well. So let me just copy it. And now go ahead and let's clear it and run this task again. Now in sending email alert we have got some error. Let's see what is the error. Yeah, sorry, we forgot to put if condition. So we have to write success if install Apache is 0, else this. Similarly we have to put if here as well, and we have to put if here as well. Now we are going to learn this in our templating lesson. For now we don't need to worry about, just try to understand the concept. Now here you can see our fourth task, which is about sending email alerts. The value it has is install Apache status is success. So we know our first task. Just imagine that you are getting this status in the email body. So which is telling us that install Apache status is successful, changing Apache port status has failed, and then starting Apache status has failed as well. Now we know our third task has been successful, but in here it is showing it has failed, and the reason for that is our copy paste mistake. If you can see here, third task name, I have not changed the variable name. So variable is going to be start Apache. So let's go ahead and paste this variable, then we are going to clear the screen. Now one more thing which we need to remember here is when we are starting a service, it doesn't return the return code. It will typically return whether it has been successful or failed. So that's why we need to change this from RC to failed. And then this is going to be either true or false. So we are going to say if failed is true, then it means it has failed, otherwise it has succeeded. So we can just write if not started.apache failed is true, it means it has succeeded, else it has failed. So let's go ahead and run it again. Now here you can see we are seeing all the message as expected. Now what else we can do with this? So here you can see, now what we can do is with the help of register we can start making some sort of conditions. So for example, change Apache port, we only want to do this when our installation has been completed successfully. So what we can do is we can go ahead and add a when condition. So I'm going to write when, and we are going to write install apache.rc is equal to 0. It means our installation has completed successful. So this task should only run when our installation is completed successfully. Now in our third task, which is starting Apache HTTP server, we are only going to do it when there is change in the configuration has been done successfully. So we are just going to add one more when condition. So now let's clear the screen and let's run this playbook. So now you can see what happened is our first task executed successfully, then it went to change Apache port, and while changing Apache port, it saw whether software has been successfully installed or not. Since it was successfully installed, it executed second task, but second task failed because our syntax was incorrect. But on top we had set ignore errors, so that's why it just ignored it. It moved on to third task, and third task, which is starting Apache HTTP server, this one is skipped because our second task was failed and we had put this condition of checking whether Apache RC is 0 or not. Now if you see this sending email alerts, this has failed. I think you will be able to understand the reason why it has failed. If you see, now our task did not execute it successfully. So now this task, third task, was actually skipped. And if the task was skipped, obviously we are also not going to get this status start apache.failed. So that's the reason this is giving us error of undefined variable. You can see this error of undefined variable talking about it doesn't have any attribute failed. So I hope this lesson made sense. See you again in the next lesson. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to send emails using Ansible. So what you see on the screen is that I have a playbook which is having a task of installing Apache HTTP server. Now let's assume I want to send the completion status of this task to my email ID. So in that case, we can use Ansible's mail module in order to send the email. So I already have the details here. I'm just going to copy it and paste it here. And the important thing here is that you need to provide a host, which is going to be SMTP host. You are typically going to get these details from your system administrator or SMTP administrator in your organization. Then provide the port, provide the username and password. If you do not have username and password, just leave it blank. And then in the from, provide the email ID using which this email is going to be sent. Then in the to, you can provide the recipient whom you want to send this email. Then in the subject, what I have done is I'm just using a variable name, which is a magic variable as well. I'm going to discuss about magic variables in our upcoming sessions. Now what this Ansible play name does is it is basically going to replace this variable with the name of the Ansible playbook, which is install Apache playbook in this case. So I'm saying that install Apache playbook has completed, and then again in the body we can write whatever we want to write. And secure, I'm going to use start TLS. Again, this detail you should be getting from your system administrator. Now in the to, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use Mailinator. So Mailinator just gives us free public email box. So I'm just going to write Vikas Jha and we should be getting an email box. So here you can see we can use now vikas@mailinator.com, and then in body we want to send the result. So what we are doing is we are capturing the result of this installation in a variable which is called install Apache. Again, I have discussed about register variable in previous lessons, so go ahead and watch that one as well. So what we can do is we can make use of this variable. So inside the body I'm going to write this variable name, and before this we can write here are the results, and that's it. We should be able to run this task now. So you can see the task has executed successfully. Let's go ahead, and here we can see we have received the email. Now if we open the email, we can see we have got here are the result, and this is the output of the register variable. So here we can see we have got basically key value pair. Now if you want to send attachments, you can do that as well. In order to add attachments, you can use attach, and then you can provide list of files. So in this case, I have under tmp directory, I have a file which is called sysinfo, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just check it here. Yes, I do have a file which is called sysinfo, and then I have a file which is called sysinfo.txt. So I'm going to say sysinfo.txt, and then let's just add one more file which is sysinfo. So now it is going to attach both of these files while sending the email. So let's clear the screen, run it again, and the email has been sent successfully again. So we can go here, but one thing here is that I think it doesn't allow us to see the attachments. Yes, you can see that this doesn't allow us to see the attachment on the free plan. So what we are going to do is we have to use some actual email account. So what I will do is I will use my Outlook account. We have to replace this. Now this time I want to send the email to my other email account. Save it, run it again, and if everything goes well, we are going to get an email with the attachments. So task has completed successfully, which means we should be getting an email here with the attachments. Here you go, we have got the email and it is also showing attachment. It means we have received the attachment. Here you can see we have received both the files as an attachment. Next lesson, what we are going to do is we are going to use templates, and then using templates I'm going to show you how you can generate beautiful email body. So that's all in this lesson. See you again in the next lesson. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. So in this lesson we are going to learn about Ansible Templates. Now Ansible Template is a great way of creating dynamic files. So as you know, Ansible is a configuration management tool. So when we are installing some sort of software, we also want to deploy some configuration files. So with the help of templates, typically we achieve those kind of things. Ansible Templates also allows us to use variables, logical expressions, conditions, loops, etc. And the typical architecture of templates will be, you are going to have an Ansible Playbook folder, and inside that you are going to have a playbook, and then you are going to have a folder again which is going to be called templates. It has to be called templates, it is a standard, and inside that you are going to have a Jinja2 file. Okay, this is a Jinja2 file where we can put our variables, for loops, etc. And then what Ansible is going to do is Ansible is going to use this file and going to render it and going to replace the variables with the actual values. So take an example here. Here you can see we have a playbook, and in this playbook we are installing Apache HTTP server, and after the installation we are also creating a default index.html file. Now here you can see in the source we are saying that we want to use webpage template.j2. So which means this file, which is a template file, this is going to be called webpage template.j2. Now here if you see, I have not given any path, I have just given the file name, because by default we know that file is going to be under a folder which is called templates. Now in the destination we are saying we want to deploy this file to /var/www/html/index.html, which is basically a default HTML file in HTTP server. Now here you can see in the file or in the template file, what we have done is we are using some HTML tags, and then we are using these variables, which is inventory hostname, which is Ansible's magic variable, and then we are using IP address. Again, this is a variable. We need to define this variable somewhere, either in our playbook or in inventory or wherever. And then we have Ansible OS family, which is coming from facts. So what will happen is when Ansible executes this playbook, it is going to use this as a source template and going to replace its value on each of the node with the actual value. So for example, when it is running on server 1, this inventory hostname is going to be replaced with server 1, and then IP address is going to be replaced with whatever the value of or whatever the IP address of server 1 is, and whatever operating system of server 1 is, that is going to be replaced here. And similar is going to happen for server 2. So let's go ahead and have a look at the actual example. So here you can see again I have a playbook and it is installing HTTP server, and then we are talking about this template file. Now what I have done is I have put everything under a folder which is called template_demo, and there we have a playbook file. Now right now we do not have a template directory, so what we are going to do is let's create a templates directory, and again we are going to name it properly as per the standard, and under templates we are going to create a Jinja2 file, or basically a template file. So I'm just going to copy this name and I'm going to create a file and going to give this name here. Now in this file we can write whatever templating which we want to write. So for example, let's say HTML and body, then we have, let's put h1 tag or h2 tag. Here we can say Ansible play name. So this is basically going to be replaced with whatever the playbook name is or the play name is. And then let's say we want to use IP address or host name is, and here we can use inventory underscore host name. Let's close the tag. Okay, so our template file is now completely ready. Now what we will do is let's go back to here to our playbook file, and here you can see we are targeting hosts group which is CentOS server 1. So if we go to our inventory file, we can see under CentOS server 1 we have these two IP addresses. So basically we are targeting these two IP addresses. Let's go ahead and run the playbook. Gathering facts task has completed. Now we are waiting for the next task, which is installing Apache HTTP server. So Apache HTTP server is also already available. And then our third task, I think our third task has not executed because I didn't save the file. I had saved the file until here, so I need to save the file again, and let's run it again. Now you can see our third task of creating default index.html has executed as well. Try to access the web pages, which is 192.168.1.20 and port is 80. Now here we can see this is installed this is install and run Apache HTTP server. So here you can see again, if you want to compare it, here you can see this is the name of the play. So in our template you can see we had written this is, and then whatever is here, it was supposed to be replaced by the name of the play, which is install and run Apache HTTP server. So again we can go here, we can see that IP address is also being changed to 192.168.1.20. Now let's go to another node which is 21, and here also we can see this is install and run Apache HTTP server, and here we can see a different IP address, which means our creation of the file, output file, and deployment to where www.html has been successfully completed. You can play a lot with template file. You can literally add anything. For example, let's say if I want to add Ansible facts, which gives complete detail about the server, we can do that as well. So let's run it and see how our web page is going to look like after this is executed. Now Ansible Facts has a lot of information and it is not really formatted properly, so probably we are going to see more like a page filled with a lot of details. So let's refresh it now. Here you can see we have so many detail about this node, and again if I refresh here, again same thing is repeating. So that's all about Ansible templates for now. See you again in the next lesson. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. In this lesson we are going to learn about using REST API with Ansible. So let's get started. So we are creating a play, and then we are going to add a task name which is going to be called REST API example, and the module which we need to use is called URI module. Now under URI module we need to specify the URL which we want to call. So I have some sample REST APIs from this website. I'm going to give you the link in the comment box. So this gives information about country. So I'm just going to copy this URL, going to paste it here. We need to provide the method type, which is going to be get method in this case. If you want to make a post request, you can change it to post or any other method. Now we need to provide status code information. So 200, I'm expecting status code of 200 from this URL. So if we get status code of 200, it means everything is successful, else we know that there is some issue. Now what we need to do is we also want to register the output. So I'm just going to call it REST response. And then we want to add another task which is going to show the output of REST response. So let's add debug module and then add message, and under this message we just want to show output which we have received from REST response. So that's it. Now we are good to run this. So let's go ahead and run this one using Ansible Playbook -i hosts, and then we need to provide name of the playbook, which is REST API in this case, and here you can see it has been successfully executed, and that's why we have got this response. Now what you can do is if you just want to see the response properly, you can just run this API on browser and you can compare the result. So if I run it here on the browser, this is the response which I get, and this is the same response which we have got here. Okay, so which means we are able to make a successful get call to the REST API. And now we are going to use some real-time examples. So what I have is I have Jira here, and in Jira I have just created a task which is available here. You can see the task name is called user account creation, username of John. So what we are going to do is we are going to make a call to Jira REST API, and then we are going to capture the response. So I already have the code available here. I'm just going to copy this code from study notes, going to paste it here, and I'll explain you this in a minute. Now what we are doing in this playbook is we are calling a URI module, and then this is the URL of Jira which you need to provide. This is again URL of Jira instance which I have created. This is a cloud instance, so you need to provide Jira instance complete URL here. Again, this detail you can get it from your Jira administrator, and also you can get it from documentation. Then we are making a get call, and then I'm providing username and token which I have created for managing my Jira account. And then here you can see we are forcing basic authentication. So there are two types of authentication which is supported by Jira. There is OAuth authentication as well, but that's going to be little complex, and for the purpose of demonstration that's not really relevant. And then we are expecting status code of 200 for a successful message, so that's what I'm providing here. And what we are doing is we are registering the response here. We have added another task which is a debug task. What we are doing here is from Jira response, whatever response we have received, that is going to be a JSON, and then it gives list of all the issues. So from that issues we are basically just capturing only one field which is called a summary field. So what we are expecting is that this summary, whatever you see here on the screen, you'll be able to see this information as the output. So let's go ahead, save it, run it, and here you can see this program has executed, or this playbook has rather executed successfully. You can see this task has completed okay, and display Jira task list. We can see this is the message which is available here. If I go ahead and create another task, so we can do that as well. Let's go ahead, create, and click on create. I'm going to create another task which is let's just copy it, save it here, click on create. Now here you can see we have two backlog tasks, and now let's run this again. and this time we should be able to see both of these items. So here you can see both of these items are available here, and it means we are successfully able to call a REST API and get the details. Now what you can do is further you can enhance this workflow, and you can create, let's say you want to create a user account. So what you can do is you can get this information from Jira of the task which you need to do, and then you can create a playbook which is going to basically use this input in order to perform the action. So you can supply this username to one of the playbook which is supposed to create users, and then you can just pass this username, and that playbook is going to complete the user management task, basically creation of the user. And then again setting up a test environment for this also. If you have any playbook which is going to go ahead and create a test environment, so you can call that playbook as well. So that's it in this lesson. See you again in the next lesson. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. In this lesson we are going to learn about roles. So before understanding roles, let's understand a problem statement which we are going to have. Let's say we are a system administrator and we are responsible to write Ansible playbooks for managing Git, managing probably Tomcat, user creation management, and then probably performing patching activity, software upgrades like Java, Python, and then managing Jira instance, probably doing some sort of server hardening, and also performing some sort of vulnerability checks on the servers. Now in order to create all of these playbooks, what you can typically do is you might create a single playbook which is having steps for all of these items, but in that case it is going to be very difficult for you to manage these, because what will happen is, let's say for one soft like installing and managing Git, you might want to do it only on some servers, and then again for installing Tomcat you might have to do it on a different set of servers. Then again for user creation and management, the code might be pretty long. So if you fit everything in one Ansible playbook, it is going to be very difficult for you to understand and manage that playbook. So the other option which you can do is you might create different playbook, one for each of these items. Now in that case also again each of these files are going to have their own Jinja templates, and there might be some files which you need to deploy for each of these items, so it still becomes quite difficult. So what Ansible suggests is that for each of these function, what we do is we create a role. So using roles we'll be able to manage each of the functionality better, and also we'll be able to basically do versioning control. We'll be able to separate our code and make it modular, reusable. Again here you can see typical steps which we do in a playbook. So now in order to fix this problem, we are going to use roles. Now before we move on, here you can see just some quick notes about roles features. For example, it allows modularity, reusability, and here is the directory structure which we need to follow for each of the roles. So each of the role is going to have its own tasks directory. It's going to have variables directory, templates directory, files, handlers, defaults, and meta directories. All of these directories are for different purpose. So we are going to use task directory in this lesson, but all of these can be used for various reasons. For example, if you want to define role specific variables, you are going to put that here in this variables directory. Again, some Jinja templates is going to go under this templates directory. If you want to copy some files from source to destination, you are going to put that role specific files here. Handlers is for handlers, defaults again defaults directory which is going to hold default variable, and then we have meta directory which can use for specifying any dependency which this role has on any other packages. So let's go on and start creating playbook which is going to make use of roles. So right now you can see we are under /home/Ansible. So what we will do is let's create a project directory, and we are going to call it roles example. And now you can see we have a directory roles example. Under this, let's create some roles. So for example, let's say I want install Git, and then I want another one which is installed HTTPD. We probably want another one as well, install telnet. So now we have 3 folders. Now under each of these folders we have to have tasks directory as well. So what I will do is for under install Git, I'm going to create another directory which is called tasks, and we have to do the same for other as well. Okay, so we have done that. Now what we will do is let's refresh here on the Visual Studio Code, and here you can see we have roles example. Under this we have install Git, install HTTPD, install telnet, and each of these directory also contains a task directory. Now we need to go under task directory for each of these files, and we need to create a YAML playbook. So here again under tasks, the file name is called main.yml, and let's go ahead and write our first task, and let's call it install Git, and then we are going to use package. Name is going to be is for Git, it is going to be Git, and state is going to be present. So we have our first role ready, which is going to basically going to be responsible for installing Git. Now we are going to move on to install HTTPD. Under task directory we are going to create another file which is called main.yml, And again here also let's copy this code from here and we are going to paste it here. And now rather than git, what we want to do is we want to change it to httpd and save this as well. And then again under install telnet we are going to go to tasks, again create another file here, call it main.yml, and let's paste it again. We are going to change it to telnet. Okay, so we have created 3 roles. Now here what we can do is let's do ll, or let's go one directory back. Let me clear the screen for you. Okay, so right now you can see we have roles example. Now let's do tree roles example, and here you can see this is a structure which we have. So we have a folder which is called roles example. Under roles example we have 3 folders. One is install git, install httpd, install telnet, and under install git we have tasks main.yml, tasks main.yml, again tasks main.yml. Now one thing which we missed here is that all of these structures need to be under roles directory. That is like one of the requirement. That is how Ansible knows that we are talking about roles. Now what we will do is we are under homes.ansible, so we will go under roles example, and here we are going to create one more directory called roles, and whatever install git, install httpd and install telnet we had, we are going to move it under roles directory. So let's use install hyphen, or we can just do install hyphen star and going to move it to roles directory. Now you can see we have only roles here, and let's go one step back, and now let's do tree roles hyphen example again, and now you can see we have basically our project directory which is roles example, and under that we have roles. So roles folder should contain all the different roles. Now we can clear the screen. Now what we need to do is under our project directory, which right now we are in, or let's go to roles. Yeah, this is the project directory. So now here we can create our main.yml file. So, or let's just use Visual Studio Code rather than using commands. So here we are going to go to roles example, and here we will create a file which is called, let's say, install packages.yml. And now this is just going to be quite simple. It's a YAML file. We are going to give a name to display, install all required packages, and then host going to be, I'm just targeting control node itself just for the sake of simplicity, and gather facts I'm just going to disable. And we don't need to add tasks now. If you want to add tasks you can do that, but now we have roles which is going to be basically responsible for installing tasks, for managing things, so we can just use roles. And under roles we can specify each of the roles which we want to call. So for example, I want to call install git, I want to call install httpd, I want to call install telnet. So again, how this playbook will work is it is going to go to these roles, and then it knows it needs to run install git, so it will go under roles directory, it will find install git task, and it will go and run whatever is under main.yml. So let's go ahead, and so again you can run it from anywhere. So we were under roles example. Now here you can see play name which is called install all required packages, which is this play name, and then what is happening is it is installing git, installing httpd, installing telnet. Okay, so you can see now how easier it is to manage all our tasks. And when you are working collaboratively, let's say multiple people are going to work on multiple items. For example, typically in an organization you are going to have a team who are responsible to write Ansible playbooks. So what will happen is you can ask them to work only on one role. For example, let's say if somebody from your team is going to work on writing playbook which is responsible for network related items, so you can ask them just to write roles so they can work independently. And again, there are some people who can work on, let's say, different type of roles, and then you can just use those roles in the main playbook. So I hope the lesson is useful and it helped you. See you again in the next lesson. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. In this lesson we are going to learn about vaults in Ansible. So before understanding that, let's understand a problem scenario. So here you can see we have our inventory file, and the file name is called hosts. If you see here, we have some sensitive information, like here you can see we have Ansible password. So basically anyone who is going to have access to this inventory file will be able to have credentials also. And again you can see this is administrator credentials. So this is something which we don't want to share. And again, this is one piece of information. There can be be other information as well which is sensitive in nature and you don't want to share that information. So the best way is to encrypt that file or encrypt that string or basically anything which is sensitive, you want to encrypt it. So we can use Ansible Vault in order to encrypt the file or encrypt any string. So first of all, let's go ahead and create a playbook and let's call it Ansible Vault demo. Now I'm just going to create a very simple playbook. So we are just going to probably ping a server, and in the task we can just include one task. So here we can use winping since it is a Windows server, and you can save it and we are going to run it as it is first of all, okay, just to see if everything is okay. And here you can see we are always referring to our hosts file because host file or inventory file is the one which is storing the credential for this server. Not only credential, basically all the connection related information. So here you can see we are specifying that it should connect using these credential. Ansible connection is WinRM. This is the port it should use. Let's go ahead and run it. So here you can see playbook is running, it has executed and everything is okay. Now what we will do is we are going to first of all, this is the file, we are going to encrypt it. So let's go ahead and use Ansible-Vault and then we need to write create. Actually create is going to create a new file. If you want to create a new file which is going to be encrypted, then we can use create. So we already have a file, so we can directly say encrypt and we can provide the name of the file. So name of the file is host file, and then once you write this is going to ask you a password. So this password you will need to specify when you want to decrypt the file. So I'm going to give the password here and it can be any password. Now you can see this host file has been, you can see here this host file has been encrypted. So if I go ahead and say cat and hosts, here you can see the information which we get is basically just some encrypted string. So no one will be able to get any information from this file until and unless they know the password, which is this password which we have specified. Now I'm going to clear the screen, and now what we will do is we will run this playbook again. Here you can see when I'm running this playbook again, it is giving the error. Now obviously we are going to get the error because there is this file is encrypted, inventory file is encrypted, and Ansible doesn't know basically right now how to decrypt it because it doesn't have the secret. So what we are going to do is we are going to specify ask vault pass. So now if we are running it is going to basically prompt the password to decrypt that file, which is the inventory file. So I'm going to go ahead and provide the password here. Now you can see as soon as I provided the password, execution happened as it is. So everything was normal here. So this is one way of encrypting the complete file itself. So here in this scenario, basically this complete inventory file only we have decrypted. Now there can be other scenario when you don't probably want to encrypt everything. You just want to encrypt a string. So for example, let's say I'm just interested in okay, first let's go ahead and decrypt the file so we can see the file again. In order to do that, we can do Ansible Vault decrypt and the file name, which is hosts file. Now here it is again, we need to provide the password. So if I do cat hosts, now you can see we are able to see all the information. Now what if you don't want to encrypt everything which is available here? Probably you just want to encrypt only this password, which is admin, and rest of the things probably you want to leave it as it is. So in that case we can follow this syntax of encrypting only the string. So I'm just going to copy it. Let's clear the screen, paste it now. So here we can provide that whatever thing which we want to basically encrypt. So I just want to encrypt this password, which is called admin. Hit enter. Now again you have to provide the password. So this can be any password. Just make sure you keep this password as super secret. Okay, so someone who's going to have this password will be able to decrypt this information. Now you can see basically this admin string has been encrypted, and this is what we have got. Now what we will do is we are going to use it in our inventory file. Now one thing here is that if you want to use any string, encrypted string in your inventory file, then inventory file format should be a YAML file. So here you can see this host file is not really a YAML file. So what we will do is let's go ahead and create a new file which is going to be called hosts.yaml, and then here we are going to give the inventory information in YAML way. So I'm just going to copy everything here and going to paste it here, and here it is going to be called Wintel servers, and under this we are going to manage hosts under this. So just follow the syntax which I'm mentioning here. Okay, basically it's a YAML syntax, so nothing crazy about this one. Now this file has changed to YAML format. So first of all, let's run this playbook again without putting any encrypted information, just to make sure our YAML playbook or YAML basically inventory file is working fine. So I'm going to specify Ansible Playbook -i hosts.yaml, and everything looks okay. Yeah, everything looks okay. It is working. So now what we are going to do is we are going to replace this admin with this encrypted string which we have received here. So I'm just going to copy this and we just need to paste it here. Okay, everything looks okay. So let's go ahead and run this playbook again. Now we should be expecting some issue. Here we can see that it is saying attempting to decrypt but no vault secrets found. So what we need to do is we again need to tell -- ask vault pass and then provide the password. Now here you can see it is working fine. Okay, so basically you can see now our inventory file is secure. So any additional information which is not sensitive, everyone can see, but password is super secure now because it has been completely encrypted. Now one thing to note here is, it might look like to you that now every time when you are running the playbook, you have to always apply the password. So basically it is going to run in kind of interactive mode and you won't be able to run it in a silent mode. So it's not like that. There is a way to run it in silent mode as well. What we have to do is, here you can see we have specified Ansible playbook and again whatever our playbook is, and here we are saying ask vault password. So that's why it is asking interactively about the vault password. Rather than this, what we can do is we can create a file which is let's call any text file. Let's say I'm going to create a file secrets.txt and here we can specify the password. So the password which I had kept was actually called Ansible as well. So now you can see this secret is basically having our password which we are going to use to decrypt any of the basically encrypted content using Ansible Vault. So now here if I'm going to run this playbook, rather than ask vault password, what I'll do is I will specify vault password file location. So we need to specify vault password file is Ansible and hit enter. There seems to be some syntax issue, so it's called vault password file. Okay, so it's not only pass. So let's go ahead and change it to password file and run it again. We don't need to specify Ansible. We need to actually tell the name of the file, which is basically secret.txt. So just copy it, paste it here, run it, and this time you can see this is running fine. Okay, so if you want to, let's say, call this script, you always need to call this playbook using the location of the file which is basically containing the password. Again, this password doesn't have to have in a file. You can also keep it in environment variable and then you can call a Python script which is basically pulling that information from the environment variable. So that's all in this lesson. See you again in the next lesson. Hi everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. In this lesson we are going to learn how to create and manage files using Ansible. So let's go ahead and create our first playbook and let's call it manage files.yaml. Now here are the operations which we are going to perform. So we are going to create a file, create directory, play with file ownership, create files recursively, remove them and remove directory and so on. Okay, so like there are 9 operations which we are going to perform. So let's go ahead and create our playbook and let's name it managing files with Ansible. And host which we are going to target is 192.168.1.20 and let's set gather facts to no and let's add the tasks. Now the module which we are going to use to manage files is a file module. So I'm going to show that to you in a minute. So let's first go ahead and create a file. So in order to do that, we are going to use file module. So I'm just going to say state touch and we also need to specify the path. So I'm going to create a file under tmp and let's call this file demo.txt. So let's go ahead and open one more terminal. So now we have 2 terminals. One is this one where we are going to run the playbook, and on this terminal we can go ahead and log into 192.168.1.20 and let's clear the screen. If you just want to verify that you are logged into right machine, so you can do hostname -I and you can see the IP address, which means we are logged into correct server, and then you can do ll/tmp. Here you can see right now we do not have any file called demo.txt. So let's save it and then we are going to run this using Ansible playbook. We need to specify host file and also we need to specify name of the playbook, which is managefile.yaml. So our first task is running. It looks okay. Here you can see this changed is showing in yellow color, okay, which means something has changed. So also task has completed successfully. So you see OK is equal to 1. So there is one task which has been completed successfully. Now let's go ahead and run ll/tmp again. Now you can see we have demo.txt available here. Now notice one thing, this file has been created with Ansible. Basically it is also owned by Ansible, because this YAML playbook we are running as a Ansible user. Now if you want to change the permission to some other user, you can do that as well. Now let's go ahead and run our second task, which is creating a directory. So what I'm going to do is, let's copy this and paste it here. So let's change this one to create a directory, and let's call it create a file. Okay, so here we are going to create a directory. So let's do one thing, under /tmp let's create a directory which is going to be /demo, and then what we will do is, under demo we are going to create a file which is let's call it demo.txt. That's fine. And here in the directory, creating a directory, we need to change state to from touch to directory. So save it, and here we can clear this terminal. Now let's go ahead and run this playbook. Make sure you save the playbook. So again, this executed fine. We had two tasks, both of them completed. So let's go ahead and do ll/tmp, and here you can see we have a directory now, demo. If we do /ll/tmp/demo, we can see we have a file under demo directory which is called demo.txt. Now our third task will be creating a directory recursively. I'm sorry, it's not gonna be file, so it's only directory which we can create recursively. Probably I'll show you how we can create multiple files together. So let's go ahead and do that. Now here I'm just going to copy this and paste this task again here. So create a file, let's call it create directory recursively, and what we are going to do here is, let's go ahead and here we are going to specify the path which doesn't exist as of now. So I'm just going to, under tmp we are going to have demo1, and then under demo1 folder we are going to have demo2, under demo2 we are going to have demo3. Now here make sure you change the state to directory. So let's go ahead here and see whether the path already exists or not. Here we can see under /tmp we have demo, we do not have demo 1, 2 or 3. So let's go ahead and run this playbook again. So all the tasks completed successfully. So let's run this ll/tmp again. Now here you can see we have demo1 directory created. Now let's go ahead, clean up the screen once, and then we can just use tree/tmp/demo_1. Now here you can see we have /tmp/demo_1. Under that we have demo2 directory. Under demo2 directory we have demo3 directory. So here you can see basically we are able to create the directories recursively. Now let's clear the screen, and I'm going to show you how to create multiple files together. So here you can see we have create a file. Now let's say what if we want to create a file which is called, let's say demo1, demo2 until demo10. So what we can do is, here we are going to use loop, and again under loop we have range function which we can use, range which is, let's say, starting from 1 and it's up until 10, and then we have to change it to list as well, because loop only loops through list. Let's run it now, and here you can see files are being created. So we can do ll/tmp/demo, and here you can see all the files are available here now. Now let's go ahead and remove a file. Now removing a file is quite simple. Where is our file? So here we have lots and lots of file. Okay, no problem. Let's go ahead and do one thing. We are going to change state from touch to absent. Now all of these files should get deleted. So let's go ahead and run the playbook again. So here you can see all of these again highlighted in yellow color, which means changes have been done here. Go ahead and clear the terminal once, and let's do ll/tmp/demo. Here you can see now we have only one file which is demo.txt. Remember guys, we are not making any changes to demo.txt. So here you can see changes which we are going to make is going to be demo and then 1 until 10.txt. So that's the reason you see this file is still preserved. Now let's see what is next. So removing a directory, again removing a directory is going to be quite simple as well. So let's go ahead and we are going to remove this directory. So state is going to be absent again. So we are basically going to delete /tmp/demo. So let's go ahead and run this playbook. Now here you can see this one is changed, so which means directory is removed, and for files already doesn't exist, so it's showing in green because there is no changes. Creating directory recursively, that's fine. So let's go ahead and do ll/tmp/demo. Now you can see we are getting the error that cannot access. There is no such file or directory, so which means we have been successfully able to remove the directory. Now again removing the directory recursively is going to be pretty similar as well. Here we can change state from directory to absent. So remember guys, we have to put /tmp/demo1, and then it is just going to remove everything, remove all the directories which is under /tmp/demo1. So that's what I did and executed it, and now you can see if I go ahead and do ll/tmp/demo_1, it says the file doesn't exist. So that's all in this lesson guys. See you again in the next lesson. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. In this lesson, we are going to learn about Ansible graphical user interface, which is basically called Ansible AWX. So in previous lessons, I showed you how to use Ansible, how we can run tasks using Ansible CLI, but typically you will see people using Ansible GUI a lot because GUI also provides some additional features and it also has REST APIs, so you can easily integrate it with any of your service management tools, and you can also integrate it with other tools like monitoring tools. So for example, let's say when certain thresholds are met, you would like to trigger your automation workflow. So those kind of situations, you are going to use Ansible AWX REST APIs. Anyways, let's go ahead and start using this GUI. So I'm just going to log in. Now about the installation, I'm going to show you probably in upcoming videos how to install AWX. You will need to have access to Docker and all, and you will also probably need to understand a little bit of Docker concept. So I'm going to show that to you, but probably that's going to be in upcoming videos. For now, you just need to know that you will need to have Ansible AWX installed if you want to use graphical user interface. After that, let's go ahead and log in. Here you can see we are logged in as an admin user, and here you can see the interface is pretty easy. So here you can see we are logged into dashboard, and here we are going to see all the hosts which we are managing. We are going to see failed host, inventories, inventory sync failures, project details, and so on. Here you can see on the left hand side we have three sections. One is view, other one is resources, and then we have administration section. Okay, these are the ones which are like more frequently used. Then of course we do have access, where we can go ahead, create our users, manage role based access control and all, which we discussed in the first lesson where I was telling you about Ansible features. But for now, we are just going to quickly create a single playbook, and we are going to run it using Ansible AWX and going to show you just how it executes, how we need to set it up. So first of all, we will go ahead and create inventories. Now here you can see I have just cleaned up everything, so everything is quite empty here. So we need to start fresh. First of all, we need to go ahead and create inventory. So here you can see I'm just going to add an inventory, just give it a name. I'm going to call it CentOS servers, and again probably you want to name it something else, you can name it something else, doesn't really matter. And then here you can declare any variables if you have. In this case I don't have any variables, so I'm just going to click on OK. Now let's go ahead and add our hosts in that inventory. So here I'm just going to add a couple of servers. So it's going to be 192.168.1.19, and you need to provide the inventory name. So here you can see we are adding CentOS servers, and again if you want to specify some variables, you can do that, but I don't need that for now. Again, I'm going to go back to host, going to add another server which is 192.168.1.20, and again we need to give the inventory which is CentOS servers. Go ahead and save it. Now here you can see we have this inventory, and here also you can see it is showing it has two hosts, because what we did is we created two hosts, and while creation of the host we selected this inventory. So here if you can just go to that inventory name, you can go under host, and here you can see all the hosts which are added under that inventory. If you want to just disable one or multiple hosts, you can do that, you can manage that from here. Now let's go ahead and select our project. So here what you will see is you have option of selecting your project. Now the project can be on GitHub, project can be on anywhere. So in this case I'm just going to select manual, and I'm going to give name to this project. So let's call it AWX demo playbook, and here you can see we have selected manual. It means we need to specify the directory and the place of the playbook. So here you can see by default it has just picked up this path. You can specify any other path wherever you have kept your playbook. Right now what I have done is I have created a playbook here, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you that. So here you can see I have just created a directory which is one.example, and let's go inside this. Here you can see it's just a simple playbook I have created, which is this one. Okay, it's not doing anything much, it's just pinging the servers and just showing Ansible facts. That's all it is doing. Now here one more thing you can see, here we are specifying hosts all, but we are actually controlling all these hosts through this Ansible AWX. We are going to go ahead and select one.example.yaml, going to save it. I think everything looks quite good now. We are going to go to credentials, and here we will need to add credentials as well. So I'm going to add a credential for user, which is going to basically be used to run our playbooks, and going to basically be used to connect to all the target systems. So it's Ansible, and choose a credential type. We need to choose machine. Again, you can see there are various credential types available. We have to just use machine in this case. And I'm just going to provide username and password, and here you can specify a private key. which can be used to connect to other servers using SSH. So I'm just going to go ahead and going to go to Ansible user, and then we can go to this directory, and here we can copy the private key. So I'm just going to copy private key of this Ansible user and going to paste it here, and everything else looks okay. I do not have any key passphrase, so I don't need to provide anything here. And now I'm just going to click on save. So now just go ahead and create templates. Basically template is the place where you are going to create kind of a job which is going to run. So here I'm just going to name it ping all servers, and in description you can specify what this job is doing. So pinging all the servers, and job type is going to be run. If you want to run it in check mode, you can select check mode, but I'm just going to keep it run. And in the inventory we need to specify the target inventory on which we want to run it. So I'm just going to select the inventory which we just created, which is called CentOS servers, and the project name is, there is only one project, so basically that's the reason it has just picked up this project automatically. If there are multiple projects, you'll be able to choose the one. Now in the playbook, we know we have a playbook which is demo.yaml, so I'm just selecting that one. And in the credential, we need to specify the credential which we just created, which is Ansible. And under label, if you want to put something, variables, if you want to use any variable, you can select those. Also you can specify the verbosity. If you want to you are troubleshooting something, you can choose debug or connection debug. Now just here you can see, if you want to do privilege escalation, you can do that. So this is like similar to using become in Ansible playbook. For now we don't need anything as such, it's just a simple job. So I'm going to click on save. Now you can see you have an option of launching this playbook. So I'm just gonna launch this playbook from here, or otherwise you can, let's say if you are on some other interface, you can go to templates, and here you can see you always have this rocket icon where you can click and launch this template. So launching means basically executing this playbook. So I'm just gonna go ahead and launch it. Now once we launched it, you can see we moved to basically jobs interface. Now here this job execution is going to take place. Here you can see execution has happened and our task has executed successfully. So we had added 2 nodes basically, and on both the nodes all the task has executed successfully, and you can see the logs here. So now here you can see how easy it is basically to create and manage Ansible playbook here in AWX using user interface. Now in upcoming session we are going to just go into little more details where I'm going to show you how to create advanced workflows, how to send email notification and all using AWX. And also in the upcoming sessions we are going to slowly learn about REST APIs. We'll probably do some integration with monitoring tools as well, like Grafana, or I'll see what else I can do. That's all basically in this lesson. See you again guys in the next lesson. If you have been liking the videos, please go on and write in the comment section that you have been liking the videos. And if you have any suggestion to improve the videos in terms of quality or probably in the content, do let me know that feedback as well. See you again in the next video. Hey everyone, in this video we are going to talk about difference between Ansible AWX and Ansible Tower, and also basically going to discuss about what is Ansible Automation Platform. By the way, if you have not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel as well. And some of the people, they are not able to find all the videos in a playlist. So I would suggest, if you are watching a video and if you want to watch the full course of that topic, you can go to playlist. You can see, like for example, under Ansible playlist I have 16 videos. So if you go ahead and play this playlist, you'll be able to see all the videos one by one in a sequence. So here you can see all the videos are available here. Similarly, again, for any topic like Azure or any other topic, you can go to the playlist and watch the complete playlist. Now here you can see I have installed Ansible AWX, and if I just log into AWX, what you will notice is the interface is pretty same. Okay, so whatever is there in AWX, you will notice similar feature in Ansible Tower as well. Now Ansible Tower is right now known as Ansible Automation Platform. So basically Ansible Automation Platform and Tower is same. And then Ansible AWX is basically an open source edition of all the features which is there in Ansible Automation Platform. So whatever steps which I'm showing you here, like in previous lesson I showed you how to run a playbook from AWX, and then in upcoming lesson I'm going to show you how to create workflow, probably SMTP integration with cloud and so on. So all these steps are going to be same in Ansible Tower or Ansible Automation Platform. The only big difference here is that Ansible AWX is an open source And again, Ansible Automation Platform is a paid edition which is subscription based. So if you want to go ahead and purchase Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform, you can go ahead and check about their pricing. They offer a lot of different environment. For example, you have like managed environment, then self-managed environment, and again pricing for all of these is going to be different. And also support window is also going to be different. For example, you can see there are two support systems which are available. The first one is standard, which is like you are going to get support window of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then you have premium where you are going to get 24/7 support. Now in order to see the pricing, again you can go on and click on any of the for example, let's say if you want to see pricing of Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform, which is going to run on AWS Marketplace, you can go there, you can click on the link, and then you have to basically again click here and select the region in which you want to go ahead and install it. For example, if I select EMEA, then it is taking me basically to AWS Amazon console. Now here you can see the pricing, and also here you can see Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform. You can run it up to 100 managed node, and here you can see typical total price. So it's gonna cost you probably $1 per hour. Here you can see the pricing if you are running it, or if you are managing basically up to 100 nodes. Again, depending on what you are selecting and how many target nodes you are managing using Red Hat Ansible Automation Platform, pricing and all going to be different. But in this case, you are going to get 24/7 support. If anything goes wrong in production, you are going to get support from Red Hat. So that's the only thing. If you are already well familiar with Ansible and you know how to manage it, and your enterprise basically doesn't really want to pay for any new product, in that case you can go with Ansible AWX. It has all the features which is there in paid version as well. Only thing is the support system. So if anything goes wrong in Ansible AWX and if you want some support, you basically have to go and ask the question in the community, and then you probably have to wait until someone in community answers the question, and that's how you are going to manage your Ansible AWX instance. In short, basically the only difference is that Ansible AWX is an open source and Ansible Automation Platform is a paid edition where you get support from Red Hat and all. So see you guys in the next lesson. Hey everyone, I hope all of you are doing great. In this lesson, we are going to learn about sending email notification whenever the job completes successfully or fails, whatever. In those scenarios, we want to send an email alert using Ansible AWX. So here you can see if we go to template, you can see we already have a job template and we already executed it in our previous video. So if you go to jobs section, you can see here we have a job. Now here if you click on here, you can see what was the output when it executed. If you want to go to detail, you can go to detail and see the job details here. Now what we are going to do is let's go ahead to templates and then let's go here. Here you can see we have something called notification. So right now there is no notification setup. That's why it is not able to find any notification. So first of all, we are going to go to administration, going to go to notifications, and here we are going to click on add to add a new job notification template. So now here we are going to call it send emails, and if you want to give description, you can give that. And here we are going to select email. Now once you select email, you also need to provide SMTP details here. So I already have SMTP details. Now for you need to make sure you are giving the SMTP details. Probably you are going to get this detail from your system administrator or whosoever manages SMTP in your scenario. So here I'm going to provide password. So just use whatever password you have given. Now for the host, we need to provide this host. Again, all these details is not something which I'm expecting from you. You are going to get this list from someone in your organization who is managing SMTP. Now here in the recipient list, I'm going to write vijha1989@mailinator.com, and here in sender email, I'm going to put this email address as well. So I'm just going to put port here, and then again timeout. You can set any timeout. If you click here, you can see the default timeout. So I'm just going to put 60 seconds, and in email options, you can select TLS or SSL, again depending on whatever the setting is in your environment. So that's all. Everything looks quite okay here. I'm just going to click on save, and then here you can see we have email notification enabled now. So I'm just going to go to Mailinator and going to open the email where I'm expecting the email, which is this email ID. So let me just go ahead and copy it, put it here. Mailinator is basically a public mailbox, so you can just, it's like use and throw email box. So I'm just gonna put the ID, and then it is going to basically give you access where emails can come, and you will be able to see those emails here. So I'm just going to go to now templates. So here in this job template, we are going to go to notification, and we can see send email is enabled here. So what we are going to do is for success, failure, and also for job start, we are going to enable it, and that's that's pretty much it. Now we can basically launch this again. So I'm just going to go here and click on launch template. Again, you can see we have moved to job section. So this job is going to execute again. So it's going to fail on one of the node because I have not turned up that server. So here you can see it's one host is unreachable because that server is not turned on. But anyways, we are going to go to mailinator and we are basically going to wait for the email which we are expecting here. So guys, we haven't really got the email yet. So I'm just going to go to notifications, and here you can see basically this has failed. So there seems to be something wrong. What I did is I just double checked the password. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put the password again because seems the password was changed. It was set to something different. I'm just gonna set the password again, save it, and then we are going to go to jobs. Now in this case, I'm just going to launch it from jobs section. So you can see there are various options. You can launch it from template or from jobs. Again, it's going to basically run on one server and going to fail on one server, and we are basically expecting some email to be triggered in this scenario. Now here you can see we have successfully got the email. So this email is talking about when job has started running, and then we got one email for the failures. Okay, so if it had been successful, we would have got email in that scenario as well because we just selected send email for all the scenarios. And if you just scroll down here, you can see all the details which we have received. So basically saying job number 16 had status of failure, and if I go to back to jobs, here you can see this is job number 16. Okay, so that is how you identify the job which has failed. And here you can again see what is the name of the job. You can see the job related details, what time it started, what time it finished, what is the status, and also you can get some additional details which you can use in order to quickly identify the issue. Now we have received the alert on email. For now, that's it. See you again in the next lesson, guys.